what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Well, I would like to start the show off today saying happy birthday to Joe Biden. I'm wearing my Joe shirt that I purchased in D.C. when I was there on a trip. And it's a good birthday for him. He's, in the last 24 hours, he has been responsible for not only taking care of his colon health, as many men his age and our age and up, John, and I should be looking into.
I haven't done it yet. Have you done it?
I refuse to answer on the grounds that it may incriminate me. I will say, though, that the doctor does know me by a nickname at this point, and at this point everything's fine. But not only did he do that, which we applaud, and we're glad that people recognize the value of that thing, but he also handed over presidential power to the first woman in American history to hold the power of president.
Oh, yay. While he was under general?
That's right. I love it. Joe Biden trusted Kamala Harris and everyone in his cabinet enough to actually do something that George W. Bush did twice, handed over power to Cheney twice. Now think about the trust exercise that is. Like, I think Reagan did it once, but George W. Bush was like, he went back in for seconds. And
arguably wasn't Cheney just in charge the whole time?
Yeah, well, I think that's the irony of it. That was what he really gave away, was the pretense that he was in charge of the government. Yeah, it must have been a great relief actually to him. Yeah, like now I get to stop being pretending to be president for like 45 minutes. It's the sweetest sleep I ever had.
I need a nap.
I just needed a nap. So that in and of itself, the fact that, and by the way, if anything could give you sort of the faith to allow that nap to come upon you in this particular circumstance, knowing that if something, God forbid, would go sideways, you were responsible for the greatest leap forward in American infrastructure since the highway bill, and you got through the greatest infrastructure, the greatest rescue package in American history in dealing with, COVID specifically and the ancillary financial aspects of it, which, by the way, the greatest effect of that particular rescue package and some of the other stuff that we've had to do in the last year is indeed inflation, is indeed a 1.7% rise over normal of inflation if you take out how deeply the prices went in a hole last year when no one was going anywhere or doing anything to what they are now. And if you took gas and cars out of the pricing index, it drops to incredibly normal numbers and shocks the crap out of everybody that the American economy is doing so well by comparison. Also, the big fear about gas prices, we'll talk about this today, is that ultimately they're going to get to a price where electric cars start to look good to people who have been hating on the concept for a very long time. And that having an infrastructure bill that provides thousands of charging stations across the nation, which wonderfully rhymes, and I think at some point should belong in an updated version of Living in America, if anybody feels like
Oh my God.
Yeah. Electric
We
stations.
reference Rocky in almost every show.
I try. It's for my girlfriend. She's a huge Rocky fan, and with good reason. So having going under anesthesia, being able to trust, what a nutty concept. Being able to trust your vice president to not go mad with that power and walk towards you with a pillow or whatever bizarre fantasy Trump had about why he would not go under, because of Pence. I don't know, many people may know this, but Trump famously stayed awake during his colonoscopy because he didn't want to sign over control of the government to Mike Pence for even moments. Yeah. So he was willing to go through it. Now, it may have been that. It may have been that he was just looking forward to it. And I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. You know what I mean? To each their own. You know what I mean? And I think that if Trump needs to tell us something, we're all here to listen. What? Somebody
using your whole fist there, Doc?
Yeah. I feel like we require an entire rundown of those particular.
Just every fletch drop you've got.
River.
Yeah.
You using the whole fist, Doc?
There you go.
Thank you, Doc. You ever serve time?
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
Yeah, they're a little out of order, but you get the point. There is a yes, right. Everybody in the chat, no kink shaming at all. So Trump, if you need to, yeah, absolutely. If you need to come out dressed as a gimp and finally maybe release some of the rage and anger that you're carrying around, good for you. You know what I mean? Maybe you and Lindsay can just open up to your realities, and maybe that tension being removed from you might make you a better person. I'm just saying, we'll still judge you on all the other stuff. Hal Vickery says, get your colonoscopy if you're of that age. My first one probably saved my life. Thank you, Hal Vickery, for that wonderful super chat and the fantastic advice. Absolutely. And I will stay awake during the whole thing and more than likely live stream it. But the important thing is that the Build Back Better bill also passed that morning. The morning he was going in, the day before his birthday, Build Back Better passed the House. It's going to the Senate. It will go through committee, and it will be wrangled, and there'll be a bunch of stuff stripped out of it, and there'll be a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, and some stuff will get added in, but ultimately it will lay the groundwork for a lot of programs that the American people, through the normal function of democratic taxation, will decide that their tax dollars, in an effort to preserve freedom and save their fellow citizens from the threats they actually face, not that they fantastically face in some sort of mythical realm of battle that lays ahead, will decide that's where their tax dollars should go, and that they should ultimately be directed in that sense. Now, of course, the right will call that socialism. They'll call that communism. They'll go for the communism part of it, because if you take tax dollars from the American people and you put them where the American people want them to go to solve problems that the American people on their own, as bootstrappy as they might be, cannot possibly expect to handle. In the same way that we have a military, because none of us individually are like, the Chinese are going to invade. Everybody get in your own rowboat if you care and start rowing towards the islands, right?
If you care.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? That's why we have a military. In the same way, cancer, infectious disease, that's why we have a CDC and an NIH. Think of it as military spending against the world's smallest yet most violent adversary, meaning, infectious disease and diseases of encroachment,
which is actually going to be the title of your autobiography, isn't it? The smallest and most violent adversary?
Yes, absolutely. And it's going to have a little tiny picture of me on the front and just a big blue cover. I'm going to be shrunk down on it, and it'll come with a magnifying glass, and I'll just have, but, exactly, Bob in our chat room, Marxism, it's Marxism. Even though, Marx was a horrifying racist and came up with his plans when there were less than 1 billion people on Earth and are completely useless in a modern society where a teenager can become a millionaire because of an app store. Think about the workers must seize the means of production from this kid tapping on his keyboard and using his phone as a computer. I'm just saying, maybe time for an update in our economic viewpoint, as crypto mining, can require solar panels, but no human beings. It might be time to talk about things as if we live in 2021, Yeah, maybe not. But anyways, they'll continue to use this as a cudgel, because God forbid the American people decide that our tax dollars might be better used making sure that elderly people, for example, who are on the edge of having to decide occasionally between cat food and medicine, eating cat food themselves, by the way, and their pills for the week, when they're at the edge of deciding that maybe, just maybe, the rest of us might want them to have an up-to-date eyeglasses prescription or hearing aids, so that as we're driving to work, we don't have to worry about them careening through a red light that they thought was orange, and or not being able to read signs that say this exit closed as they fly off an unfinished highway into an apartment building. You know what I mean? Like, it maybe, just maybe, kind of like educating children so that we have an educated workforce, so that as we have more advanced businesses in this country, we have an educated workforce to draw from. Maybe in the same zone as those things, we just don't want old people dying in their homes of abject poverty like we had before Social Security. That, people, because it has the word social in it, because it has to do with the interpersonal relationships, of the fact that some families don't exist to take care of their elderly, that perhaps as Americans, taking care of those folks because America means something, and in that pursuit of happiness, you have sort of a floor that you can count on, is not, indeed communism or Marxism or socialism or anything, but simply us as Americans going, we have values, and we don't want anyone among us to fall below that. Yeah, $35 a month maximum for insulin is also in there, Eli is mentioning. Again, so happy birthday to President Joe Biden, who, by the way, is still president and has been presidenting since January 20th, when he became officially the president, as he won the election fairly last year and has been presidenting.
Whatever.
Is it wrong to rub salt in the wounds? So,
Yeah, exactly.
Look, if they didn't pick the scab, it wouldn't be infected. That's all I'm saying. So we got to take a break. There's a lot to celebrate this week, and no one is seeing it. No one, apparently, because of something that happened yesterday that I'm not going to talk about because I already talked about it on my live stream. And I don't believe it deserves more conversation. I do not. So we're going to talk about stuff that, I'm sorry, it won't make you as angry, but it might do the worst thing that someone can do. Give you hope. We'll be back. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, this is so good. This is kind of like, I don't even know how we relate this to a story in and of itself. It's just so, like, the Lindells and the QAnon folks are getting so desperate, and it's just so belabored at this point. But
well, what's their new flex?
I want to. It's not
Is
even
that
a
the next
flex.
segment?
No, I just want to I want to send this to you. Hold on one second.
Okay.
I'll like. There you go. This is. I mean.
All right, 60 seconds, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Coming back. Hi, chat room. Love you guys. Even the ones that hate me from yesterday. Dude, yesterday was like, I'm still, I'm running out of urine to put out fires at this point.
That one's not great. I like this one better.
Yes, the penguins are much better. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
They really go for it.
Oh, Stuttering John in the chat room? That's amazing.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I was looking for it in the
Thanks,
Skype chat.
accent there.
It's time! It's time!
Thanks,
Guess
guys.
who's back? Back again.
Hals Sparks.
That's true.
Tell a friend.
You want to get sued?
So yeah, Hals Sparks is back, y'all.
I'm Mark.
Very low.
I'm Bobby.
The host of Where Are They Now? Now let's get back to the Hals Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Hey, listen.
Hey, listen.
How
That's
far
the most-
away are they from their microphones?
I don't know, but I know that they're not far from the south side. That's what I know about that. That's amazing.
They're on the south side, yelling
They're both
into a
north siders,
laptop on
too.
the other side of the
They
rec
are?
room.
Really?
Yeah, they're north
both
siders.
north side? Oh my God. Posers.
Poser
This
north
is
siders,
terrible.
yeah.
Like, how did that accent start seeping northward? We must build that wall. Build that wall.
Probably the same way their southern accents in Kankakee.
Oh, or bumper stickers that say the South will rise again in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Get out of here! I man, the South. What do you have a Southern accent for? You might as well be in Vancouver at this point.
I
What
woke
are you
up and
talking-
chose ignorance.
Yeah, that's right. Us ladies just, you know what? This ain't even a Southern accent. It's a tree accent. It's just you're around enough trees. This is how you do it. All right, come on.
That's free accent.
It's a tree accent. There's a bunch of obviously wailing and gnashing of teeth going on the right. And this is one of the reasons why they're clinging to the story from yesterday as a ginormous win. And we'll be riding it through the weekend. Tucker Carlson is famously making a documentary about what the thing that led up to the thing that yesterday, the recent unpleasantness. And in that, where's the good news? Where is the upside of such a circumstance? And it is simply that they need to cling to that thing, which was never going to turn out any other way than it was going to turn out, as a win for their side, as if they played a part in shifting sentiment and making that happen, which they absolutely did not. Because everywhere else they look is a nightmare. The infrastructure bill that that Biden passed is not, it has some extraordinary things in it. And it has some stuff that Trump and the Republicans would have never thought of. But the vast majority of it, including broadband, which, if you'll recall, I said was the winning strategy to bring people on board, and indeed was the linchpin for getting all 19 of the senators that voted for it on board. More than any other thing, the funding of high-speed internet across the entire country, edge to edge, creating a situation where the businesses in what they consider flyover country, their own territories, having the same quality of internet as the coasts do, has enormous value for them. So much so that they could buck any Trumpian that was screaming their way, and in the House, a bunch of people could tell Kevin McCarthy to go pound sand and vote for it and get it through. Primarily, that's what did it. The rest of the stuff, these guys have watched bridges and roads rot for years, and it's not their problem as House members or senators if the mayors or the governors, who mostly take the flack for these kind of things, can't repair the interstate highway system that is a federal system through patchwork through certain districts. So they don't care. And it's actually, they've been using it for a long time. The Republicans have always used the fact that our infrastructure is failing as a cudgel against government. The government can't do anything right, while they set upon making sure it doesn't do anything right. So pretending you want infrastructure, but not trusting who is going to do it. So no matter who's in charge, we're not signing off on it. And hence why Trump couldn't get any of the even baseline stuff that's in this infrastructure bill. Ultimately, $800 billion of it is stuff that's been floating in that area for a long time. We know what bridges are ready to fail. We know what roads need fixing. We know where the lead pipes are. We know where we need, clean, water treatment plants and sewage treatment plants and that kind of stuff. We know these things. We know that the electrical grid in the United States needs a smart upgrade. We've known this for a long time, decades. So why was it that Trump, the art of the deal king, the man who knows how to bring in the best people using the best words, turned Infrastructure Week into a joke, and Biden turned him into the punchline? Because that's what happened leading up to Biden's first birthday in office. As Gonzo in our chat mentioned, it says congratulations to President Biden for his first birthday in office. It's pretty spectacular. Now, we are going to see a couple of things happen over the next 6 months. Leading into Christmas, consumer sentiment is going to be going up because Americans in general, and this is, man, I saw this thing this morning on as I'm tweeting around, as I am wont to do. It's nice when a guy like me, who was literally ditching math when my math teacher at New Trier brought the entire class down to the student lounge to get me.
Who was that?
I don't remember his name. It was second year. It was my sophomore year. It was before we really hung out. It was like the beginning.
Mr. Bird?
Yeah, it may have been.
Older guy?
Yes.
Yeah, he became my my advisor junior, senior year. Or not advisor, homeroom guy.
Right. Yeah. So he literally, like, I was ditching class. Word came back to him, apparently, that I was down in the student lounge, and he walked all the other students down to the lounge to get me. And
that's an option.
Yeah. Now, granted, it was apparently because he was aggravated that I don't do homework and was ditching class, but kept testing so well that I was going to pass the class anyways, and it aggravated him. So he was like going to make a scene out of it and whatever. And, I considered it a draw. But considering I'm that dude, right? Considering I'm, in this particular circumstance, mathematically, it was like, I'm not the dude who I would have thought anybody who's an economics reporter would be retweeting things I say about math and the economy, which happen with great regularity when I'm right about these things, which I'm pretty good on. You know what I mean? Like, age might have something to do with it more than anything. Is once you've been around enough and you've seen the train
so
come
old.
Well, you sit at NASCAR, you see the cars come around several times. You're like, I think that one's going to stay in the lead. You know what I mean? At a certain point, it doesn't take a lot of brilliance. Anybody who's been to NASCAR, like, I think 3's got a chance, man. Like, no, he didn't. Like, that's how a lot of arguments happen at those places. Like, yeah. So one of the big conversations we're hearing right now is about infrastructure. And there's this big burn that the Republicans and the right-wing media are using about Stephanie Ruhle on MSNBC, making, the point that Americans have a lot more money in their accounts. And that's one of the reasons we're seeing a percentage drift in inflation, is because people have more money to spend, and people who are selling things are jacking up the prices to make up for money they didn't make last year, because they can. If that money didn't exist, they wouldn't be able to do it. And that's the case that she was making. But what she...
Yeah, and because they can, people are willing to pay because they deem something worth it. They'll cancel themselves out if they're overpriced.
That's right.
And that's like as libertarian as I get.
Yeah. And that is... And that will cause kind of what they're recognizing is in the spring sometime, they're looking at leveling out and becoming more the normal arc, zeroing out basically the difference between 2020 and 2021 because of supply chain issues and those kind of things, once that gets righted. And then a question of, and a very strong possibility of, flooding the market with goods as the Chinese will try to make up for funds that they're losing as manufacturing is leaving, and it has been over the last 2 years, but it accelerated during COVID, that they're going to flood the market with goods, causing deflationary pressure next year, which will affect how the Fed will have to make decisions and will totally upend everything that everybody's saying right now, because something as big as the economy can't wrench left and right. It can't just, keeping it steady is a very difficult job. And if it leaps one direction or the other, overcorrection is a very dangerous thing. And that's the concern. So Market Watch put out this tweet this morning that said average Americans are paying as much. And by the way, average versus median in incomes, that they don't choose those words accidentally. Median income Americans are blah, 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 is totally different than average Americans. And understand, mathematically speaking, are paying as much as $100 to $200 for a single concert ticket, $90 for a bottle of wine, and $5 a gallon for gas. And my response was, boy, as much as is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this sentence. And that's where we are right now with the narrative. Why, happy birthday, Joe Biden, why are Biden's numbers where they are? Is it because of reality? Or is it because of media narrative? Is it because... we'll talk about it when we come back. And will it matter at Christmas? Is Biden smiling all the time because he's seen these cars come around the track before? We'll be back. And then we're going to get into the we'll do the yeah. There's two good things to come out. One is this article about how the Dems, especially Pelosi, are negotiating on the Build Back Better plan and the infrastructure bill and the rescue package. That's different than how they negotiated previously, during the ACA, for example, because of Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden learned the lesson of, that everyone's like, you guys got to stop asking for what you need. You need to ask for what you want so you can get what you need. Now you're asking for what you need and you're getting less than what you need. Right? And
yeah, that's always negotiations.
Right. Well, apparently that lesson has been learned. And that includes the $3.5 trillion bill, which, it was never going to get there, but the fact that it's going to be over $1 trillion when it does pass, even with Manchin and Sinema signing on.
And like $1 trillion bill, where are you going to cash that? I've had $1 trillion bill in my wallet.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And no one will take it.
Yeah. Try using it in a cab. You get,
right?
Yeah. Yeah. You'll get sworn at in Hungarian.
I went to a Papa John's.
And
the guy
bill?
in front of me, I went to pick up a pizza from a Papa John's, and the guy in front of me was buying pizza with $100 bill, and the cashier was apoplectic. He was doing everything he could to act like it wasn't a big deal, but he kept going into the secret cabinets underneath the underneath the counter. Yeah, and he was making all this change and. It took fucking ever.
I think they should have a one of those singles guns, the Make It Rain guns. You ever seen those?
Oh, that'd be amazing. Here you go.
They
Hang
should
on.
have those.
Just you time it. You're like, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Just so anybody who comes in and pays for something like at Walgreens or something with $100 bill, they could just go and just fire ones in their face.
You're getting $82 back. I said, dude, is this the place to break your 100? And and he was, he looked like he was probably a contractor or something.
Yeah, totally. Under the table.
Yeah.
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God! They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Now I am Pollyanna-ish. I am an incurable optimist. I am one of these people, maybe because you remember John, I call the 90s the Sisyphus years. And you remember the day that I packed all my stuff in my car 16 days after I graduated from New Trier and drove to Los Angeles to see my dreams through.
Yeah, I went out to your first apartment.
Yeah.
I had sushi out there.
That's right.
For the first time ever.
We recorded a song together too, actually.
We did.
At Haim Saban's office where he had a music studio attached to it, where he allowed us to use the space after Haim Saban, if you don't know, owns Power Rangers and now is one of the wealthiest people in the world. And famously,
every time I see Saban on anything like some anime thing, I'm like, oh my God, there he is.
We knew that dude when he had a 3-door strip mall office.
Yeah.
For real. I rehearsed Treasure Mall in the empty storefront next door. So, and
have your fans, have like your diehards, is there a place for them to see Treasure Mall on YouTube or something?
There's one episode somebody has posted, and I have in Deep Sixth, I have the episodes somewhere that I need to post and put online. The outfits are fantastic, and I learned a valuable lesson from that.
And you snuck in some definite PG jokes.
Oh boy, did I. Oh,
I loved it.
Yes. So, but I'm one of these
I'll always
dudes
remember the kid who was. There's some kid who gave some real sketchy answer that, like, it was like how he really loved his mom, and you said, "Oedipus Schmedipus, so long as you love your mother."
As long as you love your mother, right? Yeah, which is something my mom always says as a gag. Oedipus Schmedipus, as long as you love your mother. On a kid's game show. Yeah, it was a joke. It was a running gag. I mean, my mom used to sing me to sleep when I was a kid, singing songs out of Mad Magazine. So understand. It'll all.
It was like to the tune of things.
Yes, yeah, because I didn't know the songs. They were like
she knew the songs. Yeah,
right. So, anyways, you know that I packed all my stuff up, and like every 2 years, everybody was telling me to pack it in and go home.
Well, the bottom would fall out every 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. And like they knew it was any different from any other time. Like it was always. Right. I mean, it's like that. My experience of the 90s was kind of like the movie, 2012, the car chase in 2012. Like the car is just ahead of the collapse all the time. The ground is falling out from under it, as the earth, caves in, and you're just gunning it and hoping you don't run out of road or a tree doesn't stop you. And that was it. And so I, am a forever optimist. You know why? Because it's a functional strategy that works. And in that, I know and I'm aware that there are a bunch of people who are going to be, hammering away on a regular interval. Probably, I mean, maybe they get orders every Thursday to hammer away on their keyboard, saying the Dems can't and they'll never, the Dems can't and they'll never, the Dems can't and they'll never, no matter how many times the Dems do and have.
I'm here to tell you it's a lot harder to be positive, and it's a lot harder to spread kindness. It is really easy to be a pessimist and to spread hate.
Oh, because because everybody agrees with
results. You get instant results.
Right. And everybody goes, yeah, I know. And they don't dogpile you for it. And I've been, Stephanie Miller's called me a happy clappy liberal for a very long time. And there's a reason for that, because I when the ACA came out, I fully backed it, and I was the one who, read it on her show and talked about it and all those kind of things. And that was years ago. But all through this whole thing, as I've been telling people, that Dems can and do all the time. And the only time they're actually held back most of the time is when our side has held their nose, stayed home, not voted, and left more than half of the decisions up to people who hate functioning government and do not want it to exist. And anytime it does function, it goes against their argument. It goes against their entire structure of running. So they have to sabotage everything to prove their own point that it wouldn't have worked anyways. Right? We hear this all the time. I mean, classically the Republican, the entire campaign argument of Republicans is government can't do anything right. Elect me and I'll prove it. And that has, as long as I've been alive, that, and aware of politics, from Reagan's, the worst thing, the scariest word somebody can hear is I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Or, and that idea while he was running to be president of the United States it should be a structural embarrassment to a functioning party. Like, that should be embarrassing to say now. You know what I mean? That's like, think about that in the macro of it. The scariest thing anybody in a burning house can hear is, "I'm from the fire department and I'm here to help you." The scariest thing a hostage can hear is, "I'm from, the Army or the Marines or from the police. I'm here to help you." The scariest, on and on. A drowning person, "I'm here with a life preserver and I'm here to help you." Like, that's what they're fighting against when they say those things. And no wonder if they feel that way about the emergency services, the support for people who've been through hurricanes, or debt relief for people who have cancer, those kind of things. If they're against that, well, then of course they're gonna pretend to be for highway repairs and then do everything they can to fight it. The joke of it is that during the Cold War, one of the things that Russia realized as far as what kind of military action they would have to take against the United States was just stand back. They're punching themselves in the face.
Yeah.
They made that decision. They made that material decision not to, there's reason to believe that there were Russian plans to set off dirty bombs, sabotage nuclear silos in the United States, do all kinds of stuff that they were constantly thinking about trying to do leading up in the 60s. And then it became abundantly clear in the late 70s as the right was attacking Carter and turning a real channel, a real corner against the United States as a functioning entity, that the Russians were like, it was basically a game of chicken. Could Reagan jack up the price of them, in the nuclear race, which they always had to chase, or would we bankrupt our own, society where we were no longer functional? That the hell with having actual factories in the country. How do you get anything you make in that factory to market if the roads are all broken down and can't take, and the bridges can't take trucks anymore? So this is the Republican methodology. This is, they are, quote, anti-central planning because they view this as a form of communism. Instead of, all functioning societies have done some kind of road planning, some type of military planning, some type of pushback against infectious disease and all the other things that we do in our society. The only difference was the old societies, the monarch would take those taxes and make a unilateral decision about where those taxes went. But we, in a democracy, together decide what the priority of those taxes should be. It's, it wasn't socialism when the king decided roads were worthwhile or armies were worthwhile, and it's not when we do it. And it's certainly not when there's an infectious disease and you have to do something about it, or it's going to tear through the country and kill everyone. And it's not wearing masks or helping everyone get vaccinated. For all the reasons that seem abundantly clear. But the Democrats can do and are doing right now. And one of the things that everybody griped about was during the ACA was the fact that the Democrats were forced into a position, or felt they were forced into a position, where they had to ask for what they needed in the ACA, and in the negotiation they would get less than they needed, and ended up with the ACA as it stands. Now, notwithstanding, the ACA brought health insurance to 24 million people, and a lot of those people and their offsprings are alive today because of it. Let me repeat that to the pro-lifers that might be listening. Are alive today, would have died without the ACA. And by the way, if they'd had a public option, I'm not talking about Medicare for all, just a public option, they could have bought into a nonprofit version of insurance that would have cost them a lot less, guaranteed them coverage, and used the extra money that they didn't have to pay on the higher premiums because the Trump administration, everybody was always going after the mandate, driving the prices up. they would have had extra money to put into their families, into their education, into their jobs, into their businesses. Because that ultimately is life, not just being living. And so the idea that Republicans are pro-life has always been a cartoon. And the idea that they believe they want to actually serve in government is an absurdity, because they want to shut it down. Increasingly, if you're Ron Johnson or Senator John Kennedy, who spent 4th of July of 2018 in Russia, there's a genuine question as to whether they want it shut down because of some sort of libertarian hinge in their brain, or because they actually are desirous of some sort of payoff outside the country. That's a scary question to have to pose. But the Democrats, this article in Politico right now, whole different ballgame. Dems vow they've learned Obamacare lessons in messaging of $1.7 trillion mega bill. Huge boost to the nation's safety net, and a looming midterm with the majority on the brink. A flood of GOP attack ads. That's where the House Democrats hope the similarities end between now and 2010, as they take their first pass at Joe Biden's $1.7 trillion social spending bill. House Democrats are gambling that its medley of popular family, healthcare, and climate proposals can steer them toward a radically different political fate than 11 years ago. And I agree. And the more forceful they are about it, and the more fearless they are about it, and the more they recognize that and are not afraid to use the word investment in America, which I think is like
it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah. Anybody who has a house knows you have to keep maintenance up. Anybody who has a new child knows that you might need another room. And in America, when it comes to America, this is, democratically speaking, this is the only house we got. And Democrats are treating it like a family with a mortgage that plans on sticking around. And the Republicans want to treat it like an apartment where they can, patch the holes in the wall with toothpaste just so they can get their security deposit back before they leave in the middle of the night. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. We have to talk about Italy when we come back. We must talk about Italy,
To me, Corona means Italy.
When we come back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Megaworldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. How you sound really encouraging to me. Well, that's what I'm doing, Heather, because that's the truth. I'm not optimistic because I think we need, like, we're the Donner Party and we're like, maybe hope's over the next ridge. I'm not. I'm telling you the truth about reality. And
he's like the Donner Party because he likes eating people.
I refuse to answer. Sorry. In selective, never mind. I'm just saying this. There must be something to adrenochrome. I look fantastic.
Adrenochrome.
I swear to God, adrenochrome sounds to me like that stuff that Jamie Summers ate in her double ate in the Bionic Woman. Remember that?
I remember the Bionic Woman. I knew.
Yeah.
Oh, when she had a twin.
Yeah, and she would chew this and it looked like beige bubble gum. She would take this stuff and she would chew it and swallow it, and it would give her powers that would make her equal to Jamie Summers. Now, the weird part is that by eating it, it gave her exactly the same powers, which even as a kid, I was like, okay, maybe it makes you run faster. But why just your left
just
arm?
The bionic ear? Really?
Yeah, right. It's just hearing. Her eyes aren't better. Like, wouldn't it be kind of a generalized? Wouldn't, technically speaking, make her better than her on everything?
Yeah, you would think.
Except that it's
So
temporary.
she had, did Jamie
I know
have an
I'm
arm
only on
too?
1 day a week. I get it. I'm gonna have to jump on
what?
GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow, and a guitar note, and then progressive and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow, and a guitar note, and then progressive and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
I love that enormously enormous break ends with like Matrix fight music, like or like I'm a football team.
It's on.
Right, yeah. And by the way, I'm glad that break gave John and I enough time to discuss the
Bionic Woman.
Adrenaline, I think, was the drug in the Bionic Woman that Jamie Summers
It's worth a Google.
Yeah, I think it's adrenaline. I want to say because it was supposed to be like some hyped up version of adrenaline, and but it gave her the exact same powers as Jamie Summers instead of just made her super. And
The episode is called Deadly Ringer.
And what was the?
I'm on the Bionic Wiki.
Okay, good. Thanks. Am I on? I should be on the Bionic Wiki.
Yeah. A surgically altered lookalike, Lisa Galloway.
Mm-hmm.
Adrenalizine.
Adrenalizine. Right. I was close. I mean, come on.
You were really close.
Come on. Really close. Adrenalizine. Right. Which is just like whatever. And I bet you
It was accidentally produced by Dr. Rudy Wells.
Well, yeah, that's going to happen, Rudy.
Rudy tested such on a paralyzed volunteer convict. You know those volunteer convicts?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All convicts are volunteers, you know? Right. God. And so anyways, this like.
And because it was accidentally produced, he couldn't remanufacture it. The supply was thus limited. Okay.
Right.
This is it. Our show is taking a turn. It is now the Bionic Woman show.
Yes, that's right.
Not the $6 million man.
No.
Ooh.
Who would? Yeah, I mean, why Netflix hasn't done the $1 billion man at this point? I don't know, because that's about how much it would really cost. The fact that, I mean, talk about inflation. That you could have a whole Bionic Man for $6 million. You can't get a house in the hills in San Francisco for that right now.
Hey-o.
If somebody's like, let's see, create a Bionic Superman who can save lives or whatever. I don't know. The view in this place is really nice. You can see the bay. It's a little chilly. No bugs. That's a great thing.
That's huge.
The horrible consumer decisions between bionic limbs, and the ability to turn a multiple amputee into a superhero, or a down payment on a house in Beverly Hills. $21 million house, and you got to put down 6 to get there. Or, all right, your own bionic guy, right? It's funny, yeah. So this is next week is the Franka ThankAthon, and I don't know if you know this.
No.
That yes, Mike Lindell is doing another one of his 3-day marathons because the last one worked so well.
Does he sleep during these?
Yeah, no, the idea is that he comes running out like, we're going to stay on the air for 96, like he's going to sit on a toilet behind, that they cover in tarpaulin. And somebody's going to have like a thing that slides small sandwiches into his mouth. And,
right, yeah.
And,
it's just a
like
sort of drip.
like mini burger Twinkie. And then it just kind of, no tangerines. Because he was attacked
hungry
by one
a minute ago. I'd like a mini burger Twinkie, please. He's going to have another one of these starting on midnight, Wednesday night / Thursday. Just in time for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, because that's when you start a live stream is at midnight on a day. Like he's selling tickets to a blockbuster film. or it's his own version of Black Friday it's the Black Friday of ideas. It really starts, you know, and these are, you know, Mike Lindell. He's just like Trump. These folks who measure from their bunghole, as it were, to and tell you length. So this, I mean, it's amusing, and I don't want anyone to get upset by watching, like, how do they let this out? It's an attack our democracy. No, it is not. It's no more than a game of badminton is an attack on Northrop Grumman or Boeing. You know what I mean? Like, this is not, none of this matters. Hi, Chip. Are you coming in? My cat Chip has decided to. No, you can't. Hi, buddy. No, yeah. Hello,
Chip.
He wants
Chip.
To yeah, Chip wants to say
Come
hi,
talk to us, Chip.
Yes, I'm in the middle of something very important. There's a story in the Daily Beast, which, can we just have more of these, please? More,
Bring it.
because these are so. The title is "Americans Chasing Down Trump's Wild Election Conspiracy Snuck into a Mafia Prison in Italy." I mean, please, how could you? What could possibly be wrong about?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
So,
hi, buddy.
So there's a prison. Oh, Chip. So there's a prison in Italy that is specifically for mafia.
Full of mafiosos,
prisoners.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. So there, there's been a big back and forth. For those of you that have not watched any of Mike Lindell's, docu movies, which I have. I've watched all of them on live streams. If you want to go back and look, I don't recommend it. It's a horrifying endeavor. Yeah, I didn't want to have to suffer through them again. Some of them took as much as 6 hours to get through because they were so long, tedious, and full of lies. I had to stop every 2 sentences, sometimes every third word, to debunk garbage that they kept repeating over and over, and none of it stood up. But in the process, there's this is a cash cow for him. He's making money on this, kids. This is a real, this is the only place he's selling My Pillows right now. And he decided a while back, and this is, all the books on the one thing and branding and all the stuff that you've heard about, like kind of micro focusing on an audience, which I have refused to do. I'm a master generalist, and I plan on staying that way. I want to appeal to as many people as possible all the time. But people like Mike Lindell have given up on the idea of consensus and have decided to narrowcast what they're selling. And they recognized that the feverish Trumpian, maggot crowd, if you just play to them and play on their side, they will buy one of everything you have. And there's enough of those folks that it saves you a lot of marketing money, because all you have to do is aim at them, and that's your fiscal year. That's all the money you need to make. If you're going to, selling one pillow or two pillows to a lot of average Americans is never going to compete with getting all the maggots to think that you're the only person standing between Donald Trump and the White House, or the only conduit to him actually doing it, and getting them to buy one of everything you have. And that's what he's doing. That's 100% what it is. He's all in. The cross he wore around his neck and all these things was always a marketing ploy. And by the way, Chip is about to jump in a cardboard box right next to me. So if you hear a giant noise, that's what it is.
He also licked your Apple Watch, which I kind of enjoyed.
Yes, he did. He bites it. It gives off a vibe or something. Cats and Apple Watches. It's like they're trying to warn us. So this is what Lindell is doing. This is Lindell's entire strategy, and it works. It is a functional strategy, but its remnants, its cast-offs in the real world involve. In Rome, one of QAnon's wildest conspiracies claimed that the U.S. presidential election has been stolen from Trump with the help of 2 small-time Italian hackers who had somehow hijacked a satellite in order to change the results being counted on American voting machines. It is now clear that this bizarre story was not confined to the darker corners of the QAnon conspiracy network. The power of the U.S. State Department may have been pushed into action trying to prove this that this was how Biden stole the election. So, Trump's White House, the State Department was trying to maybe there's something to this. An Italian prison official and a lawyer for the alleged hacking mastermind have told the Daily Beast that 2 Americans gained illicit access to one of the hackers inside an Italian prison, best known for its mafioso inmates, in the dying days of Trump's term in office in a desperate bid to chase down this insane conspiracy. The prospect of the U.S. State Department working on this theory was first raised last June when classified emails were released about the so-called, quote, Italygate conspiracy and fleshed out in Jonathan Karl's book, Betrayal, which scratches the surface of the controversy. Thank God, another piece of good news. We got to take a break. But thank God that January 6th and the perpetrators of it and every conspiracy theory that Trump and his buddies have put forward has been completely fabricated by morons. If these people had any brains at all, we would have lost our country. But thank God that when the Republicans finally decided to elect a complete maniac, he also turned out to be a complete idiot. That is the blessing in disguise of Trump and hashtag the best people. We'll be back after this.
Psycho, the psycho American.
Yeah. Yeah. You hear him? Can you hear him in the cardboard box?
I don't think so.
Okay. He turned the box over and now he's just crawling around in it. It's great. So cute. So brutally cute.
He's grown so much in just the last couple of weeks.
Oh, man. He's eating everything. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. This is so funny. I don't know. Did we ever cover with you, John, the Q snatch thing?
It just does not sound familiar.
No?
Q
No.
snatch. It's a malware called Q snatch.
Wait, what is that?
Okay, that's the software, like the hacker software that that's the hacker software that was used to divert votes through the satellite down to Italy and Spain, where they could be recounted, readjusted, flip-flopped, and flamdoodled before they were sent back via satellite. And the way they did it was using
Q snatch.
Well,
and
you have to start with a catchy name.
yeah, you do, and work back from there.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Everybody who's, by the way, everybody who's freaking out about yesterday's verdict, saying that the whole our legal system is shit and we don't have justice, during Chauvin was saying we finally have justice. And then after the Rittenhouse thing, when they go to the Arbery case, those guys are going to get convicted. And then people are going to go, we have justice in this nation. And this like flat back and forth nonsense. It's like, oh, I see. So justice is just when it goes the way you think it should go. And because, you know, instead of the legal standards that are being presented in an individual case, it's just.
I think it was overshadowed by just how weird the judge was and everything, because that's what was getting the reporting, not the discussion of the law.
Yeah, I know, Funky Rainbow. I'm not on the air. I'm talking about it. We're during the break. So thank you, Funky. But I am saying, I just tweeted about the Arbery case because those guys are going down. And that's awesome. And it should be. And that's the one I think people should be more focused on, because that's the, that pushes back on the idea that people think they can take up arms as adults and do stuff.
And I think there's going to be civil cases against Rittenhouse anyway.
Oh yeah, for sure. They'll fail. His mom might have some sort of a case against him or her, but yeah, yeah.
That'd be great if his mom sued him. Realize what you've done to me?
You've ruined our family name by me driving you there and dropping you off.
Yeah.
While there were riots going on as your mom when you're 17. Shit.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. I mean, there's an argument to be made that the way she raised him with that gun fetishist philosophy in the house is a form of child abuse. But since since Trump decided he liked Rittenhouse, was going to back him last year, everybody's like, well, okay, well, that's the line. I got to be on the other side of the line, because if I
back in 20
let this if I let this kid go, that means I've supported something that Trump did, instead of Trump just taking advantage of something, and specifically a minor child in this situation. He didn't jump behind the Arbery case because they and the right didn't either, even though they support it. If you ask them in person.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Plus faithful pimp-stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
So I love me some
I love
wacky.
him.
I love him. I love some. I just enjoy to the depths of my soul the wackier of the QAnon stuff from an observational standpoint. Interpersonally, whenever you talk to somebody who genuinely believes this stuff, you're clear that either this person is slipping into genuine insanity and it's a little frightening, or you're concerned that they may be having a stroke or something and they need immediate medical attention. In the case of, and I've got to open this up. In the case of this story, we were just, teasing before the break, on the Daily Beast, and that's reaffirmed in Jonathan Karl's book, that's that talks about, as many books are coming out about the last few days of the last 3 months of the Trump presidency, which is the crucial part, the part that led up to January 6th, where with a wanton disregard for the value of human life, a total disdain for our American way of justice and elections, Donald Trump set forth a plan of stochastic terrorism to attack the Capitol using his followers by using kind of sideline, mafia-like language. It'd be a shame if somebody was to burn this place down.
Nice country you got here.
But yeah, exactly. It'd be a shame if somebody didn't like what you were doing, right? With our elections, right? We're going to walk down there peacefully and patriotically. When we get there, though, right, that's the turning point. That's the stochastic terrorism part. We're going to walk down peacefully because I plan on seizing power and I don't want you to ruin the grass, because I have this plan to turn the Washington Mall into a golf course eventually. Like a giant mini golf course where the Washington Monument is the biggest challenge on the course. But once we get down there, we're going to have to act with strength, and you're going to have to take your country back, and you're going to have to be powerful and strong. Why would you have to be powerful and strong if you're just going to stand there patriotically and raise your voice? What's the wind blowing? Is there going to be a snowstorm? Why would you have to be powerful and strong? Why? Right?
Wind blowing.
Yeah, right. What is it? I know it's raining, but you're going to have to withstand the rain while you stand there and with your candlelight vigil on the steps of the Capitol, begging Mike Pence to do the right thing for our nation, right? That's what he meant? Please. So that part of it, And again, thank God it was the cuckoo. The cuckoo, was led by morons, and we've, as a country, we dodged a rubber bullet on this one.
The cuckoo.
Yeah, I call it the cuckoo because it was all crazy people. And which is played out in some of the ancillary folks that are dealing with this. The Christina Bobs of the world, the Melissa Caroni, who is now running for office in Michigan, which is going to be a gorgeous endeavor as people bring up the fact that she pled down to her computer fraud charge that she was, when she was just had a month out of her probation when she got her job fixing jammed paper for a Dominion subcontractor on election day, and told everybody she was a Dominion employee, which is a lie, and she said it under oath. But that's fun, along with the fact that Johnny, do you know, many of the people in our chat know because it's hysterical and amazing and bizarre, and I don't. It was one of the few things that's actually surprised me in the last few years. Do you know what she pled down from? You know what her charge? Melissa Caroni, you remember her, right? The blonde wine, box wine drunk lady with.
Is that the? Do you know? Is that the one she was like testifying like a crazy person?
That's right. That's right. You don't even know that her.
Yeah, you don't
remember,
know.
Do you know? Do you know what she pled down from to computer fraud and got a year of probation? She was charged initially with first-degree obscenity.
Oh my!
Exactly. I didn't even know what that was. I'm still amazed. There's such a thing as first-degree obscenity.
I kind of feel like I've got something to strive for now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you and I have always been like misdemeanor third degree at best.
Yeah, at best.
Yeah. Well, what she did was she sent explicit videos of herself and her boyfriend having sex to his ex and their minor child. That's first degree. That's apparently what first degree obscenity is. And she was allowed to plead down. Yeah, she was allowed to plead down because they had a hard time proving that her defense was I just got into his phone and accidentally sent it to the kid. I meant to send it to just her, but she, so they allowed her to plead down rather than waste a bunch of money on it.
Yeesh.
And she got a year's probation for computer fraud, for breaking into the device, whatever it was, his laptop or his phone or whatever, to send the videos. And she was just a month out of that probation when she went to work for Dominion, a Dominion subcontractor fixing paper jams, because that's all she's good for in that circumstance. So, and we all, and the fact that she's running in Michigan will cause no genuine harm and will be just it will be a fruitful tree of silliness we can all pluck something off of and enjoy every so often, because it will mean nothing. But the story that we were talking about right before we went to break, where a report from Barbie Nadeau, she states that reports on the access to the two prisoners in the Italian mafia jail, the hackers that were in there, set off alarm bells in the State Department, which launched an investigation. The report notes an earlier report on a conspiracy rumor in QAnon circles that the hacker somehow hijacked a satellite in order to change the results being counted on American voting machines. Now, I don't know how the Italians and the Chinese got into it together, and they managed. The Italians and the Spanish were going to change the votes.
Q-snatch.
Well,
duh. I just learned. You just told me about it.
Well, that's the thing. If you don't know, folks, and you think Johnny's just being gross on the air, the evidence Mike Lindell put forward in his very first special, Absolute Something or Other, he had a guy on it from Texas who believes that the majority of the voter fraud in the United States happens in the state of Texas, which kind of undermines the idea that it helps Biden and not Trump, seemingly, but okay. And that all the votes, they practiced it for years, sending all of Texas's votes to Spain via...
piece of malware called Q-snatch.
That's what he calls it, a piece of malware called Q-snatch.
Q-snatch.
Which predates QAnon by years, apparently. And this guy has been telling the elected officials in Austin about...
piece of malware called Q-snatch.
Something about the way he says malware.
Yeah, malware called... Yeah, absolutely. they believe that that's part of this. This is how they did it. They had to use this malware called
Q-Snatch.
So they had to use this malware so they could get the votes, ricochet them off of a satellite to Italy,
Pew, pew.
and then they would do the digital part while the Chinese would print these, fake paper ballots with panda poop in them and bamboo or fibers or whatever, mail those to, of course, black Democratic get out the vote campaign people in places like Georgia and other states, and that they would swap those out in coordination with the Italian mafia. And
that's how Ted Cruz keeps winning.
That's right. That's the exact the plan, and that's the assertion, by the way, because this guy, as much as Mike Lindell liked to think this guy was on his side when he was talking about, he would actually. This guy was actually making a case that everybody who's in elected office in Texas in the last 10 years, from the senators and the governors, lieutenant governors especially, are criminals who are manipulating the vote. And this seemed to throw, and the best part of that, by the way, was in that same beginning interview, Mike Lindell goes, "These Dominion machines," and the guy goes, "Oh, they don't use Dominion machines in Texas. And Dominion's not even a real challenge. They're too small to even worry about." And you could just see and this is the first 20 minutes of his first documentary. You can just see the color drain out of Mike's face. And of course, they just flip to another person. But this is it. In an interview with The Beast, the attorney for one of the incarcerated men, hacker Arturo Dalia, thought that people who came to see him work for the Secret Service and was terrified. The Daily Beast caught up with Dalia's lawyer, Nicola Nampaniello. I just love this story just for the names. Italy, we love you. Who confirmed the American's visit and said that his client was terrified that the people he presumed were American Secret Service agents were there to investigate him. He did not agree to be interrogated. In fact, no one should have had access to him without going through me. It's beyond absurd. Nampaniello asserted. The report adds the Italians in their 30s are convicted of hacking the computer system of an Italian military supply company, Leonardo's, which of course, come on. Of course, the Italian military supply company is called Leonardo. SPA, which has nothing to do with U.S. satellites, American voting machines, or any election, or for that matter,
Q-Snatch.
Before adding the plot proved untrue, though it still lives on as, quote, fact in the dark corners of QAnon's conspiracy network and is now the focus of an internal investigation by the Italian Bureau of Prisons. Like, our crazy is wasting Italian tax dollars right now.
That's amazing.
The Italians were one of the countries that were hit worst by the COVID epidemic in the very beginning.
Oh yeah, they were destroyed last April 2020. Ugh.
Oh, it's brutal. And yet they've got, they were spending money on oxygen, on respirators, on medication. They were trying to buy vaccines, and it's reassuring to know that Mike Lindell's impact in the world includes among it a bunch of folks wasting Italian tax dollars, chasing down
Q-Snatch,
so that those funds don't go to elderly Italians on respirators.
Mm-mm.
And again, tell us again how Mike Lindell's just a lovable, gullible sap who just wants the best for America, and he may be out over his skis, but he really means well. No, he does not. I have come to the determination, and I've said it on my live stream a couple of times, but I used to think Mike Lindell was just kind of like harmless and kind of stupid and gullible, and that a bunch of people around him, like the guy who runs his network, were just living like ticks off this dog, much like the people who surround Trump. All of those things are true, except he absolutely is a jerk. Like, he's not a good person. And that's the issue. Like, that's the shift that's happening. And so that's where this, like, ongoing, this thing that's going to happen over Thanksgiving, I think sort of proves it. The idea that he's going to do this over Thanksgiving.
Yeah. That's like the family freedom,
right?
America.
That's right. To just be able to, and by the way, we got to take a break. But when during the break, folks, contemplate the idea of maybe this Thanksgiving, this would be a good time to take a break from the more incendiary aspects of our politics in this country and remind everybody what they do, they can be grateful for, especially as we continue to, battle what could be another spike because of unvaccinated people and the winter months approaching. There are serious things that serious people are trying to come up with serious solutions to. And all the while, and meanwhile, Mike Lindell wants to waste money, driving people who care about, to create a worldwide deficit. Unbelievable. We'll be back. Hi, Chip. Hi, buddy. Hi, what are you doing? Hold on.
Aw.
Come here. Hi. He's just roaming around under here because he just wants to hang out. Hi, buddy. You okay? I fed you. I gave you breakfast. I came down and he jumped all over me. So Maddie has testicle-seeking paws when she's just walking across the bed in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my cat Mouse had that.
Oh.
No matter where she jumped from onto the bed, her landing spot was my nuts.
Well, he would always, Maddie just walks. And like some of the other cats will just kind of do that because that's life. It's just weird, But he full on was doing his chasing one of his toys, pounce, stop, wiggle, pounce. And I was, it's TMI, but I was face down, right leg crook to the right. And ba-boom, just pounced 2 paws. Hi, buddy. Yeah, you can go to sleep. You're okay. Yeah, I don't need my arms. It's fine. He's literally just curled up here purring. This is so sweet. Hi, buddy. Yeah. He went to the vet yesterday and got chipped, got his rabies, and got dewormer. And it was
nice.
It was stressful.
We're back in 20.
I'm glad you're not anti-vax.
Yeah, with the cats, you mean?
Yeah.
No, we have measles parties. I send my cat to Utah to hang out with like radical Mormons.
Utah.
Thank you, Todd.
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. Brought to you today by which is one of our big supporters right now. It's they've decided to stop fighting, stop doing crime, and now it's just used to help you, with your Amazon Black Friday or Cyber Monday buys. We have been watching with great regularity the death of right-wing talking points all year long. Every time they come up with one that this is it, this is our winner, this is going to be the one, and we can latch onto this, and we'll use this like a 2x4 to just beat up the Biden administration, lumber prices. Anybody remember lumber prices in May?
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Remember that? We're out of wood. We were all out of wood, and that would have been rough for Tucker Carlson.
I like wood
because he was building a show, like his little Fox Nation show, right?
Deeper and longer.
And he was his whole set was made of wood, and so it was going to cost him more, even though it was fake. That went away. Then we're talking about like Afghanistan. Trump is literally angry that we're not talking about Afghanistan anymore. that we're not discussing, the exit from Afghanistan. And I have to say, I'm a little annoyed that people are just shrugging off the fact that we're out, like it was a fait accompli, like it was just, eventually it's going to happen on its own, like it was just set on a path, and not the fact that Biden did what multiple presidents couldn't or wouldn't do. Even as tough as the decision was, even as many warnings as he got about the reality that there was just no clean way out, that the minute we start leaving, and even Trump said in two recent interviews, they told me, and the generals who are mostly overrated, they all told me that the minute we got out, I knew it was going to collapse as soon as we started to leave. Remember that? Remember that whole thing? He said that a dozen times. Well, then that's the reason you didn't go. Because that's the tough part. Because you knew it was going to affect your numbers. You knew it was going to look bad. It was going to be terrible. There was going to be violence. It was almost impossible to get out of there without, the cost of human life, because of the nature of the conflict and how long we've been in there. And yet, we're out. We are out of Afghanistan. And Afghanistan is now a goal, the stability of Afghanistan and the ability to get humanitarian aid into that country without money going to terrorists is now the struggle of the United States and the UN together with our NATO allies to make that happen. And that's what's going on. That's what people are working on. And the military problem that is and was Afghanistan in terms of the Taliban, as in terms of ISIS-K, is now, and Etim, which is one of the offshoots of ISIS that's related to the Uyghurs in China. These are now the problems of Russia and China. And there is a reason why Russia and China were part of the chorus, internally and externally and through, social manipulation and pressure, to keep us in Afghanistan as long as possible, spending our treasure in throwing good money after bad for years and years and years, because it benefited them in the long term. And it kept the Taliban and the ISIS fighters who have a grudge against Russia about their treatment of the Chechen rebels, and the ISIS-K and ATIM and some Taliban fighters and even some Afghans who do not like how the Chinese are treating the Uyghurs. We, by our presence and our control of the circumstance and the support of the Afghan government, kept those fighters out of China and Russia's hair for a decade.
Yeah.
That's what we were there for in terms of what China and Russia wanted from it. And we are no longer there. And they are having to deal with it. And the idea that we're not talking about it anymore is largely because we are only doing the part we can do anything about, which is monitor any kind of terroristic threats that might grow out of there, that might grow towards us, which it seems to point in all the news that I've seen coming out of the country, that the issues we have about terrorism from that country attacking our country are minuscule in comparison to China and Russia having to deal with the blowback from their policies in Afghanistan and with Muslims in those areas. And on a geopolitical level, that is an enormous story in Europe and in Asia right now. But it's not over here. It's a dead right-wing talking point because we're out. Because we're playing a part in Afghanistan that is equal to or lesser than the part we play in trying to push back against Boko Haram, or the part we're trying to play on a geopolitical level while not getting materially and militarily involved in the Kenyan civil war, which is brutal and grotesque and sorrowful and heartbreaking, and yet, is that news over here?
Not at all.
Is not at all. Is anyone decrying the circumstance or what part we should or shouldn't play necessarily in the in the broader Twitter sphere or social media world about the Kenyan civil war? No. And there's a couple reasons. One, there's nothing for the Republicans to get out of it.
Right.
There is no clear savior in the circumstance because it is complicated and a horribly morally ambiguous argument over who would be better served in a situation where both parties in that particular conflict have a lot of blood on their hands. And there's no, straight ahead resource from there except in the Congo and the related stuff that anybody wants a part in. And we as Americans are trying to disinvest ourselves of all the rare earth minerals and the other stuff that comes from those kind of areas. We've been doing it for 25 years. The rest of the world hasn't. China with the Belt Road Initiative, Russia with their resource hunting, they're all in those areas. That's why all those guns you see when people are on the backs of trucks are AK-47s. It's not an accident. And yet it doesn't play out in the story over here because the United States is doing what it can and no more in a situation that under George W. Bush, there may have been strafe bombing. And the total ignorance about this issue points to, Americans not having a particular interest in it at all. And that's where we are with Afghanistan. It may be a challenge that we as global citizens should play some part in, making sure that refugees and people have the resources they need and displaced humans that are being driven out by this conflict have some place to go and something to eat and something to wear, which is the part we can play in something like that. But it's no different than where we are with Afghanistan today, which is a world away from where we were in June in Afghanistan or this time last year or the year before that. And so if anybody brings up Biden's exit of Afghanistan, I feel the need to bring up, why do you feel like we needed to stay in forever? If Trump had a magic plan, why didn't he ever use it? And are you advocating that we invade Kenya? Because Boko Haram is a dangerous threat. It genuinely is. They do horrifying atrocities. All the things that the writer's saying that, the left suddenly doesn't care about Afghan women and girls when we're the only ones who cared about them for a very long time. Now all of a sudden they care about that. Yeah? Is it? No. We got to take a break. I went way over. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hals Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. By the way, I noticed today we had a couple of new trolls. Usually we have the regular.
Hey.
We've had a couple of new trolls, and I want to welcome them. Thank you for being here. Much like, I feel like Glinda the Good Witch when I say this, but you have no power here. This chat room doesn't really react to trolling. We just don't.
You have no power here.
You have no. Now get out of here before someone drops a house on you too, or whatever. We don't really care. Nobody gets upset. We think it's kind of funny, and I know other chat rooms freak out. Like you go into, Pacman's chat or TYT's chat. I'm sure you can get into flame wars a galore with those folks. They're very easy to sell. Not my gang. We're all too steadied against it. But we do want you to know we appreciate you being here, and not just because you pad our numbers, but because when you type, that tells the algorithm on whatever channel you're on that I am very engaging, that Johnny is very engaging, that the topic and subject matter and our take on things is very engaging, and therefore that raises the cost per minute of our commercials that run on YouTube and Twitch and other sources. Which, since you guys don't subscribe, you just either follow or just show up, you're subject to. So we get a piece of that money, and you share us with your anybody who watches your videos, because there's that little thing, especially on YouTube, that says people who watch this also watch this, and even if they don't agree with it. So I'll show up in that, and people will other people who only agree with like 20% of what you say, who may have checked something out that you liked or in the kind of zone of something, they'll get my show now in the feed. So that's awesome. Yeah, it's good. But hey, like I said, as long as you're not using racial epithets and aren't advocating violence, nobody cares if you stick around. Yeah. And you'd get kicked to the curb for that stuff no matter what channel you were on. So
yeah, no matter where you were.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, and I don't know why you think, why some folks think that using those things doesn't automatically undermine any other point they would ever make. But that's them, so I guess that's what you do. Yeah.
Back in 20.
Thank you. He's in the box. He's just like he's out. I'll be done in a minute, buddy. Love you. Yeah, that's his sleep. He's just sleeping in there now.
I know I'm only on one day a week. I get it. I'm gonna have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the Hals Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the Hals Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
The Hals Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Welcome back. This is I think the one thing we get to look forward to, and that Biden gets to look forward to as an automatic jab he can add to any speech going forward, is all the Republicans who didn't vote for the infrastructure bill, who are going to take credit for it. And on top of that, all of the Republicans, period, that when the Build Back Better plan passes in whatever form it finally gets through as the primary budget for the next decade, which is just, how it's going to go through, that they'll also take credit for, look how insulin's cheaper. Look how you can get glasses.
Right.
Look how you can, you don't have to send your kid to daycare. You can now send them to preschool for a year. So they're actually learning something instead of just sitting around eating pudding cups. And there's a standard by which your kid will learn reading a year earlier, which will set them on a path that will pay dividends for the rest of their life.
God, I love pudding.
That's the one thing you take out of it. This reminds me of that time I found you naked with that bowl of Jell-O. This is true.
I was
hot and I was hungry.
And I was hungry.
I was right. By the way, there's so Biden is going to be able to name drop multiple people, the Ron Johnsons of the world, the Marsha Blackburns. All of them are going to be at every ribbon cutting for every fixed bridge, every new power station.
Yeah, they're all going to be like Moana. You're welcome.
They're going to be in a F-150, the electric one. Going, this is America's truck. Yeah, they're all and probably the worst thing I know. Many people were probably concerned yesterday if Biden was able to remember
person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Now, what most people don't know, and I don't know why he didn't mention this, but that was a huge win for Trump when he was able to remember those words, because it happened during his colonoscopy.
River,
which and
TV.
Yeah, and by the way, you don't want to know when in Trump's colonoscopy, you don't want to know
that's better than a brick because you can't throw a brick; it's too heavy.
So, the report has come back from.
Poor guy's never been able to lift a brick.
Never. That's so amazing to me. But hey, you have to understand Biden's cognitive ability has been a concern for a lot of people.
Yosemites.
Because when you have a president who speaks as well as
wildlife refuges. I mean, you look at this. You look at what we do with our wildlife.
You know, when you have somebody who speaks that well and who really they don't even lose the plot.
We're going to be appointing very pro-crime judges.
No, you know, where they use the best words.
Free health care for illegal. Look.
You know what I mean? They're and when they know the world.
To me, Corona means Italy.
Or even.
Can I hear carrot?
Yes. Or they know the people that they work with.
We're honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President Mike Pence and his wonderful wife Carrot.
I will never forget the day we were just listening to what was otherwise a normal speech. It was the prayer breakfast. The only thing the Pences cared about, right? That's their day. Trump doesn't pray. He's never read the Bible. He held it upside down. He used it as a prop. It was terrible. You know, it's almost
gave
like
us Motown. Gave us Motown. Gave us the Mustang.
But everybody's concerned about, you know, Biden's mental state, especially after, you know, Trump, you know, had such a clear grasp.
I had to beat off.
Boy, that was like
Same, Donald.
a lightning rod went off.
That he had
A lightning rod went off?
Yeah. So, you know, and
Winston Churchill stood on the rooftops in London, very calm, making speeches. Winston Churchill.
Now, granted, I'm just going to say out of total fairness, if you said something like that while getting a colonoscopy without anesthetic, I'd almost believe it. You know, kind of like the waxing scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin. You know what I mean?
Kelly Clarkson.
They're reaching up in you and all of a sudden.
Worked for. That's Burmisma.
The
Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese.
Yeah.
They.
Do they?
Is that what they say?
Yeah.
You know, they are.
Yes, they do. These are the same people who tell you how to pronounce Iowa.
For Iowa values. For Iowa values.
Yeah, so clearly there, you know, you've got you got a standard set by Donald Trump.
The bar is high.
Yeah, and then it's got to be rough when the report comes out today on Biden's birthday. The president remains a healthy, vigorous 78-year-old male who is fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency, to include those as chief executive, head of state, and commander-in-chief. Kevin O'Connor, the White House.
He is the healthiest human ever born. There's never been a healthier person.
He could live on nothing but Twinkies and maple syrup forever, and still have the ability to lift a girder off of a poor old lady trapped in rubble with a simple thrust of his hips. The detailed report said that Biden did have perceptibly stiffer and less fluid motion while walking than a year ago, because he hurt his ankle and his lower back, and suffered increasing frequency and severity of throat clearing and coughing during public speaking engagements. Because he's giving more speeches than ever. By the way, I've had that in the last couple of weeks. We are in COVID after all, and people have had both cases of it and reactions to stuff. And there are other diseases in the world. Like, the vaccine didn't cure everything else.
Right.
On the raft of tests, Biden came out with high marks, no signs of heart failure, no dental issues, has no suspicions for skin cancer, and his eye health is reassuring. That was interesting. Since I don't think he wears glasses. One reason for that solid report may be the doctor's finding that the president does not use any tobacco products, does not drink alcohol, and he works out at least 5 days a week.
Nice.
Biden, who turns 79 on Saturday, is the oldest president in U.S. history, takes 3 common prescription medications and 2 over-the-counter medicines, as well as wearing, he does wear contact lenses. There you go. Yeah. He measures 5 feet, 11 inches tall, 1.82 meters. He weighs 184 pounds and has a body mass index of 25. A smiling Biden returned to the White House from his checkup at Walter Reed Hospital saying, "I feel great," and was, by the way, oddly singing as he came in.
River. You using the whole fist, Doc?
So, it was, while the annual visit to Walter Reed Hospital was routine for a president, the requirement for Biden to transfer power while sedated during a colonoscopy made history. For 1 hour and 25 minutes, Kamala Harris
The country
was the
went
first
to
woman
hell in a
hold
handbasket.
Yeah, right. A chick ran the joint, and we all fell apart. It was terrible. Yes. Eek the matriarchy, right? First woman to hold presidential power in the United States. She is already the first female vice president. The White House press office said the official letters to Congress declaring the temporary transfer of power were sent at 10:10 a.m., which probably means something to the QAnons. It's probably, the time of John F. Kennedy Jr.'s, JFK Jr.'s last colonoscopy before the fake plane crash.
Right.
Was also at 10:10 a.m. The president resumed his duties at 11:35 a.m. Today, that was another chapter in the history for many women and young girls across the world. Across the country, but I would argue the world. Press Secretary Jen Psaki said, noting Harris's trailblazing role. Harris made an unsuccessful bid for the Democratic Party nomination in 2020 before being picked as Biden's running mate, as I said she would be from the very beginning. You're welcome, America. Psaki noted that a similar temporary transfer of power following the process set out in the Constitution had been carried out when George W. Bush underwent the same procedure in 2002 and 2007. 5 years apart, he went and had the details of Biden's health were being closely watched, given speculation on whether he will stand by his stated intention to seek a second term in 2024. He's going to, kids. Get used to the idea. By the way, everybody who thinks he shouldn't also gets their stock advice from people in their 80s. Just saying, who run enormous companies. Just saying. Most of the people who choose to do that. Well, we got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. I mean, it's kind of almost all happy ending today. But we will have some when we return. It's the Hals Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Also, infotainmentwars.com and fwank.com, FWANQ.com. Subscribe at twitch.tv/HalSparks. Do it. We're trying to get to 1,000. You can do it. You could do it. Or become a patron or use the Patreon or the Venmo. It's right there. Help the show. Help. I can't give hand signals like Steph does when she's, when she does her she'll lean her finger. She doesn't do the Mark Levin, which is Mr. Producer, like he's poking the guy in the sternum. Yeah. I'm trying to find one link that I had up before, and I accidentally closed it earlier, and I should never do that. But then sometimes I have so many ridiculous things open that I have to.
Okay.
Is that you or the cat?
We're coming back now.
The cat, she's complaining.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Hold me until I hold her.
Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together. Whether the weather is cloudy or sunny, I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together. Whether the weather is cloudy or breezy, I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. 'Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you? Chugga chugga choo choo woo! I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together. Whether the weather is cloudy or stormy, I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay!
Hey.
I would like to say, for the record, that we breeze past some of the wins so quickly in a bum rush to the next loss.
Yeah.
Because of the addiction to the dopamine adrenaline cocktail that is, I'd rather be right than happy, or honest, right? And the idea that fear is intoxicating, because as human beings we have survived by paying attention to things that we fear with greater intensity than pleasure.
It's evolution, baby.
Yep, that's right. And you
That's
can
why we're
recognize
here. That's why we're anxious.
That's right. And that's why you need to manage it as a part of being a civilized being, unless, you're clamoring for the days of when we were all in the trees. But let's just say, for the record, Monday, this week, remember, this was just Monday, Biden signed into law the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, which includes in it $550 billion of new federal investments in infrastructure over 5 years, touching everything from bridges to roads to the nation's broadband, water, and energy systems. Experts say the money is sorely needed to ensure safe travel, as well as the efficient transport of goods and produce across the country. The nation's infrastructure system earned a C- from the American Society of Civil Engineers earlier this year. Democrats claim the legislation pays for itself through a multitude of measures without raising taxes, but the CBO brushed aside several of those pay-for provisions, ultimately finding the package would add $256 to the deficit over 10 years. It's significantly smaller than the $2.25 trillion. By the way, that $256 billion that it will add to the deficit, allegedly, CBO, allegedly, does not factor in the billions in lost productivity from the bridges that don't work and that get stuck when boats have to go underneath them, or trains that derail, and the lives that are saved when you fix those kind of things, or the ability for people who no longer have a landline to be able to call for help in a circumstance because there's broadband and Wi-Fi around. Those kind of advances, those life-saving aspects of it, you cannot put a price tag on them. So, but I'll stick to that in there. Legislation calls for $110 billion for roads, bridges, and major infrastructure projects. By the way, these are grants or matching loans, which will double or triple the money that's going into each of these projects if they don't pay for it outright. That includes $40 billion for bridge repair, replacement, rehabilitation, according to the text. The White House said that would be the single largest dedicated bridge investment since the construction of the interstate highway, which started in the 1950s. The deal also contains $16 billion for major projects that would be too large or complex for traditional funding programs, according to the White House. Some 20%, or 173,000 miles of the nation's highways and major roads, are in poor condition, as are 45,000 bridges. This is going to fix 45,000 bridges and 173,000 miles of road that is in poor condition. Not average, not it could be better. Poor, as in dangerous. Also in the package, $11 billion for transportation safety, including a program to help states and localities reduce crashes and fatalities, especially of cyclists and pedestrians. That's right, kids. Bike lanes are going to get their own pylons and get their own safety measures, which they couldn't afford to put in a lot of cities as they try to increase pedaling and walking traffic in major cities, which has an effect on climate, but nobody would call that a climate part of the bill, but it absolutely does. Think of the associated climate assistance that comes from making it safer for people to walk and bike to work. That, or hoverboard, or ride one of those wheels with the two little planks on it that you can do it, or a weird one that looks like a skateboard with a giant, go-kart tire in the middle of it. $1 billion to reconnect communities, mainly disproportionately black neighborhoods that were divided by highways and other infrastructure. According to the White House, it will fund planning, design, demolition, and reconstruction of street grids, parks, and other infrastructure in areas where they were moved because of a highway at the time. Let me reset $1 billion just for that.
Right on.
Yeah. That's parks. That's new retail investment in areas. That's Also improves the health and welfare of the people in those areas, because they will dig up a bunch of ground that had lead and other crap in it as well, get rid of it, because they'll treat those things like Superfund sites as they do these things, because that's the law, always has been. Well, since the mid 70s. The package provides $39 billion to modernize public transit. That's less than the $85 billion that Biden wanted, but again, these will match funds. Cities will be able to double the investment through bond issuance and other stuff like that, especially if they're bigger cities with a lot more money, like LA, Chicago, New York, Seattle, and the like, Baltimore, Miami, places like that. The largest, $12 billion in partnership grants for intercity rail service, including high-speed rail, which, by the way, you'll recall that it was going to be somewhere like $8 billion to create a high-speed rail from Seattle to Los Angeles. $8 billion. And the reason we never did that in California was because the matching funds from the state weren't there, and the money from the Trump administration was earmarked for other stuff, and that they had to agree to a bunch of other stuff to get it, and they weren't, Newsom wasn't, nor Oregon and Washington State weren't willing to do it either. Now this is just free and clear from that stuff. Upgrading airports, waterways, and ports. $17 billion in port infrastructure. $25 billion in airports to address repair and maintenance backlogs, reduce congestion and emissions near ports and airports. Reducing emissions near airports. And again, this is climate related. Is this going to be listed as the things that are pro-climate in the bill necessarily? No, just standard pollution. Something that everyone can understand, but will ultimately have a positive impact on the climate. Improving power and water systems. $65 billion to rebuild the electric grid. According to the White House, it calls for building thousands of miles of new power lines and expanding renewable energy. $55 billion to upgrade water infrastructure. According to the text, it will replace lead service lines and pipes so that communities have access to clean drinking water. Another $50 billion will go towards making the system more resilient, protecting it from drought, floods, and cyber attacks. $21 billion to clean up Superfund and brownfield sites, reclaim abandoned mines, land, and cap orphaned gas wells. Do you remember when Biden brought that up during the debates, and he rattled off from memory the number of them? It's like it was like 168,000 or something uncapped well tanks and like that kind of.
No, I don't remember that. That's crazy.
Like 16,000. I think it was somewhere in the order of 60,000. He could tell you. He knows the number.
Yeah.
I don't. He rattled it off in the middle of it. And everybody was going, was that on anybody's major list? Because that's where a lot of methane comes from that seeps into the environment. Capping those wells would solve that, because the earth will naturally reclaim it as it seeps through, as opposed to coming out through a chimney basically out of the earth that we created. And those are union jobs. And did Trump bring that up ever? Did anybody else, even in the climate world, even the climate argument? Have you heard anybody talk about capping wells the way Biden did, where he brought it up and said, this is something we got to do? It's a huge impact on the environment. And it just happens. It's like oil leaks that happen all the time. And you're just like, well, I guess that's just life, right? It was so consistent and nobody cared so much that the average person didn't know that was something that they should be rooting for.
Right.
And that was in the bill this week. That happened. Those union jobs, those safety jobs, that climate advancement happened in the United States because of a bill Joe Biden pushed through, a detail he and his team intentionally added because they thought it had importance and had believed in its importance for a long time. They got it done. The money is going to be spent on that thing. That alone, honestly, you stand alone, think about that for a second. All the uncapped wells that puke methane into the air and that affect climate in this country, that are material, there are a genuine percentage of the amount of pollution that comes from the United States, like a measurable amount, a statistically significant amount that would change the quotient they would grade global warming on, or the rise of world temperature over time. that changed this week, that is a bill by itself would be a major win. That would be enormous. And it passed in a package of dozens of other things that will save lives, improve the lives of every American, make businesses more productive and safer when they carry out their work, save truckers as they drive everywhere they're going, save small businesses that are trying to get their products to market, allow for safer and cleaner commutes. Don't let anything that happened this week take you away from the enormous victory that happened this week, because it's the kind that you will feel forever. And you can rub it in their faces. This is the Hal Sparks Radio Program, Megaworldwide. We'll see you next week. This is something that we're just going to have a joy grinding on the Republicans on. And thanks, everybody, for listening at WCPT and on 820 AM and at WCPT820.com. That's their website. Tune it in. You can hear all your favorite liberal and progressive talkers on there.
Yeah.
They're there. Program it in. We'll see you next time. See you later, Johnny.
See you, Hal. Ooh, don't always get to
Thanks,
hear that
Chicago.
quote.
I know.
Hago.
I like the doodly doodly bo, the doodly doodly bo. I wrote a riff that I didn't have to pick.
Are you in standard tuning? I've never tried to play long.
That's D. Yeah, it's drop D. Yeah.
So just the bottom string is down.
Yeah. And
Nice.
and we might be in 432 on that. No, that's the earlier recording. So but I do 432.
All right, have a good show or a good week, guys. See you next week.
Thanks.
Thanks. Oh
Appreciate
my
it.
God, we have to do the show now.
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
2 more
no,
hours.
That you don't scare me. That doesn't scare me. I love the sound of my own voice. Okay, see you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Never have a problem with that or whatever. And and I'll spend a couple of moments talking to the chat room after Johnny leaves us, but I don't know that. Maybe it's just because I'm as wonky as I am, and I've been kind of tracking this, as long as it's been going on, and even when they were talking about the infrastructure bill that Trump was pushing, I was like, everybody's like, well, if Trump finally brought one up and Democrats voted for it, that would give Trump a win. That was the big concern. Like, what if he manages to do this thing? First of all, who cares who does it in functioning government? If he does something perfunctory and just that's normal, that's like, I expect people to wash their hands. If I congratulate someone for washing their hands,
Republican presidents got some really good stuff done in the past.
Yeah, and so wanting your infrastructure to be ruined, to own the other side, is a Republican thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not playing that game at all. But ultimately, do you know why they wouldn't pass it? Do you know why they wouldn't bring it up? Because Democrats would vote for it.
Right.
Because they couldn't be seen having any Democrat support something that they did, because Trump wouldn't have it. So they literally sidelined infrastructure because they never wanted to give Democrats a win by some of them voting for it. And there's America first, right? Sacrifice American infrastructure just because some Democrats might vote for it also, and Trump didn't want it to look like he wasn't a partisan hack. That was one of his biggest fears. And so, yes, I'm going to be on Stuttering John's show today for a little bit, chat room, for a couple minutes. Not the whole show, because he's got his body language expert on, whatever. And I don't want to get in another fucking shouting match about the verdict yesterday with people while I, continue to be disgusted by how our side is using it. And how we're playing into the side of the right by doing so. Not gonna do it. Not gonna. But
just a body language expert.
Yeah, he's this guy who can tell by, like he was a former FBI guy, wrote a book on body language, and he can judge how earnest they are and forthcoming, what they're, whether they're nervous, that kind of stuff from stuff. And so, in talking about some of these things, and I had asked him about the interview between Trump and Mike Lindell has some of the oddest body language between the two of them. And Lindell already does. Like, the whole time he can't barely make
He's
eye
super
contact.
Well, yeah, amphetamines kind of mess with you that way. Yeah.
And he's also just madly in love with Trump. Like, you can tell he's just like, oh, here he is. And he just can't even, oh God, he's here. It's so obvious. And at the end, they show Trump's team going, wrap it up. We got to get done after this one. We're done. Like, literally shutting it down as Trump tries to find the exit ramp 3 times during the interview by going, "You do such great work. You're so great. You're such a great person." And which is his way of like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. You get one compliment and then I stop. And he never caught the clue because he won't shut up. And so that literally the person off camera had to go. And Lindell just goes, huh? Yep. Yep.
Boy.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
So rare. That's like that's a random reference. I don't think people will get.
I love that.
Oh, and Trump was in a tux because he was raiding another christening or wedding ceremony or something that they're having. You know what I mean? Like, he just walks around in a tuxedo like he's the asshole maitre d'. Good evening. My name's Donald Trump. I'll be your asshole.
Mission accomplished.
Fruit bat. Yep. Ta-da! He's raiding their snacks. Absolutely. It's so sweet. I own the place, and all I have to do is come down out of my tower, and as long as I'm wearing a tux, nobody asks me to get away from the buffet. Is that did they get a refund for what he eats of their thing?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, assholes
that adds
over there
to the national deficit, I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Mind Pillow is nuts. Oh, God. So I'll let you go, Johnny. I know you probably have a run to get to or a run to recover from.
I've got a birthday dinner tonight. That's my biggest thing going on tonight. It is my brother-in-law's birthday.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you tweet about that this morning or last? No, you didn't.
I don't know.
Something else. I think that's what that was. Never mind. I'll save it for later.
Never you mind.
I'm just saying. Christmas bonuses are a real thing. Just saying.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
I send you direct messages about how much I love you.
That's true. You do. At really uncomfortable times. It's funny, because they come up on my watch. And if you knew where my hands were at the time.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a...
Is
it really a dick pic if...
Nailed it. Right.
Yeah. All right.
That's enough. That's
okay.
I'll let you go. Hold on one second. No, hold on. You don't get to leave until I sign you off and say goodbye, because then it just doesn't look good. So I go, everybody go, bye, Johnny. Everybody say bye, Johnny. And then you get, now you're going off. Yeah, now you're going off screen, and then you can leave with dignity. And
Mwah.
Mwah.
Bye.
Bye. That was me. Yay. Hi, chat room. I think we're alone now. There we go. That's the sound of Skype going away. And so, yes, I believe I'm going to be on Stuttering John's show later on, arguing with him again and again about all kinds of lovely things. I just have to say, I have to remember. There's an article I'm going to tweet out later, guys. So, hi, chat. How you guys doing? You all right? What's happening? I have a thing. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Open this up. Go to this. Yeah. and then go to this, open up this, go to, I'm experimenting with something today, so if everything explodes right after I go perfect, you'll know why. Whoops. There we go. Going to here, going to here, then we go to here, then I go to here, then I think it works. Yeah, there we go. Now I gotta take this and I gotta shrink it down to this. Yeah, that's it. And then I can, wait for it, I can talk to you guys. Now, a little obviously later than, there's a delay on stuff, and that's just life. So recognize that I've got to scroll ahead and all that kind of stuff. Maybe I'll have Airborne on. He's funny when he gets wound up. These jackaloons. Yeah, I love him. Can you explain why a defense asks for appeal of decision, but a prosecution can't? Because of double jeopardy. Because you could torment someone from the government by, we didn't find him guilty, but we want to try again. Because of double jeopardy. That's why. And by the way, you do not want to live in a country where the burden of proof is on the defendant. And if you're asking for that, that's what you're asking for. Love it. So there you go. Yes, it's a combo. This is the restream chat. This is what I see kind of on the regular. Let's see if I can bring this over a little bit and still squeeze it in a touch. There we go. Yeah, it's a little better. This is yep. No. Okay. Romulan 77. No, he cannot. Playing Jack Parsons, right? Some of us are sorry that people got mad at you for being right. Oh, thank you, Coretta. I appreciate it. Open season on progressives in the left. Not at all. Nope. If the Arbery guys get off, then you have a case. You don't have a case about this. And the more you say stuff like that, the more you raise the chance that somebody will take that as the inference from it. Mm-hmm. The jackaloons. I mean, I think it's just a jack-o'-lantern is an empty head, and a lunatic, jackaloon. I would guess that would be the, yeah. Is there a show tonight too? Yes, I'm actually coming. There is a show tonight. I'm gonna go see my dear friend Todd Kearns perform tonight at Counts Vamped here in Los Angeles because it's his big birthday show. Let's see. That's me sending a message confirming that I will indeed be there to the person that I'm going to go see there. There you go. You watched it happen. Ta-da. So let's see. I'm going to transition to, yeah, okay. Now I can turn it off. Oh, I know what I need to do on this one though. I need to add an image to this guy. Let's see. I'm just gonna like do some while I'm sitting here with you guys. There's a. Let's see. Oh, it's gonna be down here, isn't it? Yeah. There's that guy, and this guy, and then I'm just going to I'm doing some housekeeping because I can while you guys are here, since I've decided to use this window to talk to you guys. And I know I'm playing with fire because this is how, trolls feel like on other shows, how they have the right to be complete scumbags is because you open up, and you allow them to, yeah, that'll work. How about this? Does this look better? Hold on. There you go. Just fixed a little something. There we go. The judge dismissed the weapon charges, which are the charges he could have been found guilty for. Yeah, I'll tell you the reason why that happened. Nobody wants to hear it. People would rather be mad. Sorry. No, I'm not going to do it. Nope. You're not going to bait me into this. Okay, you don't want me to tell you why he threw him out, because there's a totally valuable legal reason that you would want available to other people. And that's why. You want to hear it? You want to know why? Because if ever you were in a circumstance where you were concerned for your safety, so you didn't have the right to buy a gun, for example, and you kept one in your house illegally, and let's see if I can actually, hold on this guy, bring this over here. There was a case that deals with this directly. This is, hold on one second. It was, let's see, it's probably in your Twitter feed right now. But there was a guy who was raided by SWAT. He was a felon, so he had a gun for self-defense because he was dealing in some sketchy areas and his neighborhood was bad and all this other stuff. So he didn't feel safe without a gun, even though he wasn't legally allowed to have one. The SWAT raided his house. He opened fire because he said they didn't announce themselves. It's like a Breonna Taylor story. He was found not guilty of murder because he did not know they were SWAT and he was firing in self-defense. He wounded some people, and he also, his girlfriend was killed in the crossfire of this situation. But they threw out the gun charge, even though he was a felon who was not allowed to have a gun because he had a reasonable concern for his safety, and that wasn't a misdemeanor, right? I'm trying to find the there we go. I'm trying to find the article so I can bring it up. But that story is a parallel in terms of the legal aspect. It's a balance because that guy, it was a felony for him to have a gun. It was a misdemeanor for Rittenhouse to have one, is the idea. And it wasn't real, and it was both were considered self-defense. Both of them ran on self-defense, and that's why they throw it out. If you were being chased by a mob and you broke into a house and you stole a gun and you later defended yourself against said mob with the gun, let's say, the same, and the law has to apply across this. Even if they tried to try you for who you shot and why, the breaking into the house and stealing the gun charge would be dropped. And that's it. That's why. You don't have to like it. That's why. Yes, you have the right to arm bears. Go ahead. The 5 elements of self-defense in the YouTube comments of yesterday morning show. No, he was not white. The guy I was talking about was black. The felon who did not have a right to own a gun and shot police officers, that his gun charge, even though he was a felon, his gun charge was thrown out when he was found not guilty as well. Because how you come across it is immaterial to the main charge, which is whether it was murder or self-defense, which is what the law is seeking to determine. It's genuinely immaterial to the first one. Now, if the DA wasn't trying to just throw shit against the wall and get whatever sticks, which it seems like what they were trying to do, they could have separated it and not charged him at the time for that, but then charged him later. He would have gotten a fine. There wouldn't have been much of a trial. He would have been able to plead out to it. It would have been probation, but it wouldn't have gotten thrown out, because it was the fact that it was put in relation to the greater charges is why it was thrown out, because the prosecutor is a dipshit. Yeah, I remember the Bernard Goetz case. And the fact that some people don't, they all thought the same thing would happen. Like, everybody was talking about the subway vigilante. Remember that story? That this was going to be the beginning of the end, and every American was going to have a concealed carry, and New York was going to be the Old West because all these vigilantes would do it. Never happened, because people get on with their lives, and not everybody. Surprisingly, few people have time to wander around like a cosplay dickhead in neighborhoods that they're not from. There was no violence in Kenosha last night. Right. That's what I said. Like, there's no way. Again, like, it just didn't. There wasn't going to be. Portland was always going to riot. Portland will always find a reason to riot. And in many ways, because there's so much allegedly political and Antifa violence in Portland, it means that it's not politically. It's just discontent. It's just the attempted violent overthrow of what they see as a government. It's anarchists, because it's not related to acute circumstances like the George Floyd murder or any of that stuff. They just do it because they look for any excuse, and therefore, if any excuse will do, then the behavior you are seeking to excuse is a personality trait. It is not an act. Thanks, Julie. I appreciate that. It is sad, because I like Portland too. I love Portland, but it's become a target. I mean, the Boogaloo Boys are sending assholes there to foment stuff. There's a bunch of willing participants in the anarchist sides of the Antifa wannabes, and they just want. Yeah, Reason to Riot is a good name for a band, Betsy. That's true. Didn't Portland burn to the ground again? Right. Well, that's the other thing. It's like, what are you talking about when you're burning it to the ground? Again, does anybody know the race or nation of origin of the auto parts place that Rosenbaum was trying to set on fire? Anybody? A lot of the Portland protests are based on homeless issues. Yeah, the problem is they're largely run by squatters who are homeless by choice. The ones that are violent. Yeah, exactly. He's an Indian American. That's the place where Rosenbaum started the fire and Rittenhouse put it out, and where he started threatening him, and where he said, he was talking to him and an adult male, one of the other militia guys, said, if I get any of you alone, I'm going to kill you, to those two guys. And he didn't notice Rosenbaum didn't follow the adult. He didn't bring up, run up and throw something at or chase down one of the adults. It was a dumpster, no threat. That was the first one. You bleeped in the gutter. You love in the sink. Agreed. No proof. Rosenbaum said nothing he was accused of. Really? You haven't seen the footage of him saying "shoot me" N-word repeatedly? Yeah, I agree, Mrs. Wiggins. Again, this is why I didn't want to talk about it, because people don't want to hear it. What they want to hear is that judicial wins are we get one and then they get one and then we get one and then they get one, and the right is lining up to lionize this dude simply because they think it owns the libs. Accused of what? He's not the only person who saw him foggy. All right, I'm not. I know it's so hard because there's always a delay in the chat room. So, I will say this, and again, I'm still sticking with my absolute optimism due to the signing of the infrastructure bill and the number of lives that will save, and people can grind on something and give more importance than it deserves, and that's how they choose to spend their lifetime, their time, and their life, and the lives of those around them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. The Republican Party is solely the party of pissing off liberals. And by the way, all the more reason to never let yourself get baited by anything that they're trying to drag you with. Never. Not ever. Aw. Yeah, he came in here, attacked the box, turned it over, slept in it. And I already fed him.
Oh, well, look at that.
I know. Look at his big belly. He's not going to be able to walk.
He's huge.
I know.
Like he just ate one of those really fat peanuts.
Right. Well, it is, in his defense, it is mush. Is it the nice stuff? Yeah. Yeah, that stuff looks pre-digested anyways. It looks like what was coming out of the back of him when we got him.
So I'd lick the bowl when he was done.
Right. Oh, she got some this morning. Yeah. So when I feed, Chip is a growing boy. So when I feed,
empty this morning when I came down.
yeah, I fed both of them, and then I split the bowls. I have to put one down early so he'll run to it, and then put the one close to Chud down so she'll just walk over to it. Otherwise he'll. Oh, kittens. And Murphy. Oh, Murph is not having a good day. Murph is very upset.
What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, they're fighting around a corner now. Crazy. Yes, the BBB reconciliation bill is moving very fast too. How would I mean homeless by choice? I mean street campers. I mean drug tourists. I mean people who view themselves as living off the grid, which is different than people who find themselves homeless. And there are if you live in LA, you know those people exist. If you live in San Francisco, you know those people exist. And Portland has more of them than any other city because they don't handle their homeless problem, so people take advantage of it. And half of them are like teenagers and young adults who go home to the suburbs sometimes, but hang out in tents on the weekends doing drugs and whatever. And it's because they've chosen to. It's a difference. And quite frankly, I think it's a mockery of homelessness. I think it's cruel, and it takes advantage of, you could argue, sidewalk space at the very least that homeless people often find themselves on, and manipulates the system and takes advantage of goods and services meant for the homeless. Mm-hmm. Trust found anarchy. Yeah. Everything about your judiciary has problems. It's a problem. The judge offices are not called non-political, so they don't have to declare their party. We have value judgment. How can you make a value judgment from his family? Well, I mean, like if you're talking about Clarence Thomas and Ginny Thomas, and the fact that Ginny Thomas paid for some of the buses that brought people on January 6th, or that Judge Janine Pirro also paid for the rooms at the Willard when someone else stiffed them. Thanks, Venice said. Appreciate it. What Hal is saying is that some people do not want the responsibility of owning, paying for, or being tracked by personal property. No. I'm saying that they are willing to take and live off the property of other people, because none of these people are living like Ted Kaczynski. They're not living out in the woods and foraging for themselves. They're living off the city they disavow and claim to hate. They eat at the soup kitchens and at the food like food pantries meant for the homeless. They take and use those goods, and when they do not in fact need them. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those folks. And that is by no means the bulk of the homeless in the country, nor is it the bulk of the homeless in any particular city. It is the bulk of the people instituting violence in Portland, and the criminals that prey upon the homeless in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Those are the folks that have someplace else to go and use those tents to sell drugs or people, and use the goodwill of the city towards homeless people as cover for themselves. Yeah, preppers are not homeless. This is true. When a juvenile commits a crime, their parents are charged. No, they're not. Not in general. Well, Westweb, the idea is that, people view homelessness as a single issue. Whichever one you are most sympathetic to will be the way you view the homeless for most human beings, how they psychologically deal with it. Republicans think everybody's just lazy and good for nothing, and some people are going to fall through the cracks because you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. And so they see mostly that when they look at homeless people. Most liberals see drug addicts and mental illness as the primary reason, because that's where their sympathy goes immediately, and they understand sympathy in those circumstances. The reality is there's a multitude of reasons why people live on the street, and you have to treat each reason in a directed way that solves that problem. You can't have haircuts and jobs programs for people who are schizophrenic. You can't treat someone who simply went bankrupt because of medical bills with medication for schizophrenia, right? And rehab programs when they don't have a problem in that regard or something. And you certainly have to recognize that that some people are turning the streets of some of the major cities, especially the ones that are easier to live in on the West Coast, into their own localized Burning Man. Venice is full of them. They're the one that many of them have tents, but that they live on the beach, and then go to either a storage locker that they have inland and a truck or camper van or a big Winnebago that they park on the streets in Venice. And I used to live there. We saw them all the time. They park on the streets in Venice because there's no laws about parking. You don't have to move them. So they just leave them there like a house. That's not the same thing. And the solution to that won't be the same as helping people who have mental illness and addiction, or people who simply need a leg up because they've fallen through the cracks because of a lot of, life piled up on them. You know what I mean? It's like it's like opening a hospital that only does splints, right? Most of the people we see come in for a broken limb. All right, well, we'll just splint everybody. That should solve it. It's silly. The problem is, if people on the right show any sympathy for people who are mentally ill or on drugs, and that they need help, that's a violation of their sort of libertarian Ayn Randian policies that, some people just got to go. And on the left, if you call out some people are actively taking advantage of the system, you're seen as unsympathetic to the mentally ill and drug addicted. When in reality, if you want to solve these problems, you're going to have to solve all 5 of the major problems of homelessness if you want to ultimately solve it, and not just the one that you feel the most, sympathy towards. Right? Universal pay wouldn't do it. UPI wouldn't do it. UPI would simply cause lower middle class inflation to spike. There is not any of these cities where if the federal government was giving everybody $1,000 a month, the rent wouldn't go up $500, and the cost of everything else together wouldn't go up an accrued $500. There's no circumstance. I mean, you would have to pass nationwide rent control, which you would never be able to do. It's absurd. You could do it in cities, but then you'd have a stampede. People would move into the cities that gave them that, and it wouldn't be, the first people who stampeded in wouldn't be like working class families and the like, and that might drive them out over time because people would move into the city that gives you a free $1,000 a month. But then ultimately the city itself would be so expensive because the people who do work and live there would also get that because everybody gets the same amount. Even welfare for everyone is even welfare for no one because it just basically raises the water line, and which doesn't help you if you're drowning. Isn't antisocial behavior considered a mental illness? Yes, there's debate about whether it should. I mean, it could just be a personality trait. You can have antisocial, personality disorder, right? But that doesn't mean that just because you're an asshole, you qualify as mentally ill in that situation. Again, the goal should be to find a solution for homelessness. In my opinion, some advocates don't want the homeless problem solved. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this would be, the argument why there are, in any good cause, there are people who barnacle onto it and make a living doing it. So they really don't want it to end. This is on the interpersonal level, this would be why, it's easy for people to understand the idea that pharmaceutical companies don't want to cure something. They want a treatment you have to take forever. Right? Now, why is there a material difference between anybody who as a scientist would go work for a pharmaceutical company and somebody who would go work for a charity? That there wouldn't be primarily similar social upbringing, similar education levels, similar belief systems as far as I started out wanting to help. But ultimately, if I help too much, I'm out of a job. That there's some of that happening. I mean, there are people who advocate for solutions that have long passed their validity or their viability or their actual, their ability to help. But they do it because A, it's a habit, and if you don't advocate for it, you're seen as being against the cause. In the inner circles, that would be the charity bubble that some folks live in. And homelessness is one of those areas where the sympathies towards the people and the people's reasoning has been baked in for years, even if it changed, even if it's not the same problem. How would you fix the problem about your mental anxiety, whatever? Well, mental health, like if we're talking about schizophrenia and like heavy mental illness, medication and institutionalizing people is what a just society would do. Having them just go, well, once you peak the crazy meter and you don't have any family to put you in an institution, we as a society just we gotta, in the name of freedom, just let you wander. I see that as cruel and grotesque. We need all the mental institutions that Reagan shut down. We need to reopen. We need to have a version of those things. And with the many advances in medical science that have happened in the last few decades, those places would be more effective, more short term. They wouldn't be lobotomizing people like they did in the 40s and 50s because they had no other recourse, and that's as far as science had gone. We have a lot of biochemical research between now and then that would make it possible for people who were medicated to transition through that, position where that period where they got medicated for a mental illness and could maintain it, instead of just trying it temporarily and then dumping people. Like, all right, it's a 13-week program. That's how we do it, because we treat, most of our drug programs, for example, are predicated on the idea that most people are functioning addicts, and that you get them on their feet again, you get them kind of moving, and then you send them back out. And it's just not adequate, especially when people have reached a level where they have to be institutionalized, or where they're seeking, being, either forcibly or voluntarily put in a drug rehab program by the law or by their relatives or themselves. It's inadequate to the circumstances. Once you've reached that point, you have the broken relationships that have been caused make it hard for you to have a familial safety net when you go out, because you've already burned a bunch of bridges, or you wouldn't be in there in the first place. So longer care and a real strategy that takes, in some cases a year or two. Yeah, medication implants would help, absolutely. But then that goes into the mid-ground between somebody who's completely out of their minds and cannot give consent, with no family that could consent for them, doing this for them, and enough people who are mid-level enough, who have been medicated long enough to go, yeah, I'd like to be able to have this so that I don't have to remember to take a pill, or I would fall backwards. And we could do an implant or a neural neural electrode, which would shock the system internally and help with brain chemistry, those kind of things, those kind of advances they've been working on for a long time. And that's a huge step forward, and for society, because God knows the minute we start talking about that stuff, the right wing and the hyper left wing are going to go, they're going to round up anybody they disagree with and put an electrode in their brain. And it's this close to you say it. The minute you say, I don't want this, they should let you out and drop you off on the nearest corner. And that's why we have, that was the basis of the entire Reagan concept, was that they were fomenting this, FEMA camp bullshit, and making it impossible for people to deal with a real threat like this, because they're eventually going to come for us. Mm-hmm. So there is no quick fix to it. And the problem the challenge that I would say is pretending there is. For many, legalization they thought legalization of marijuana, for example, would be the solution to incarceration, because they were led to they were under the opinion that because a lot of jails were full of people who had who were carrying a little bit of pot, that was the real reason they were there, instead of that law enforcement was using it because they were suspected in a violent attack or child molestation or something, but they didn't have evidence on it. They used it for 3 or 5 days. And so when you look at the cycle, these people are in for a long time, but in days at a time, because they're coming back in and out. And almost no one in prison is there for possession. That intent to distribute was the reason you went up to the federal level, and they often use that because they were trying to get you off. They found you with the drugs, but they knew you'd killed somebody, but they can't get you for the killing because nobody's talking about it because of gang culture and all kinds of other stuff in multiple communities. So they would just use that to hold you in there. So you have a bunch of people who are allegedly in there for drugs, when in reality, it was because they couldn't get them on the stuff they knew they were guilty of. That's happened for a long time. So they would just and then the rate of incarceration around possession and stuff started getting higher and higher because it was a compensatory sentence for where they couldn't fix it. So, and then when you could tell that because the minute you got rid of it, you got a lot of folks who are back out on the street, who it's abundantly clear that while they were in for that, while they were arrested and charged and tried for possession or what have you, they were actually in for other stuff, which they went right back to doing. Hence the murder rate rise, hence the corresponding rise in violent crime, which was on its way down for years. Stop forcing me to give a shit about an unapologetic murderer. I'm not. I'm asking you to give a shit about our legal system, because the changes that people are calling for in these circumstances would have ramifications for real victims nationwide, on and on and on. That's how it works. Better 10 guilty men walk free than one innocent man be hanged. And that's the reality of it. That's why we have a complex legal system. It's why the complexity can be frustrating sometimes and seem unjust, but it's to make up for that thing. Oh, okay, that's right, Kitchi. Law and morals are two different things, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, it is my opinion, and I'm sure people will have an opinion about it as well, that once you turn a moral into a law, it ceases to become a moral. You do not get credit for not murdering someone because there's a cop present and you'll get caught. You get credit for not murdering someone that you would or know you could get away with, and you still don't. That's a moral choice. Once you codify something in law, it seeks to become a purely moral decision and is based on crime and punishment. What you think you can get away with. That's why, the argument that, only the religious can be moral, for example, and atheists cannot, is kind of silly on its face, largely because what is morality if you are saying you don't sin because you will go to heaven, or if you do, you'll go to hell, which is effectively childish. It is a cookie or a spanking scaled up. Mm-hmm. Finbar, perhaps that's true, but I would not wish that on anyone who committed a crime when they were 17 years old for the rest of their life. I don't know why we would want to be people who would do that. So I'm more concerned with the, making the legal system, fair and just and as protective as to victims as is absolutely possible, while understanding that it can be wrong. For example, like the Julius Jones thing is a great move, because I don't believe in the death penalty, not because I think he's innocent. It's absurd. Of course he's guilty. but they, people saw, a schlockumentary on ABC or something that told him half the case and lied about details and think he needs to be commuted to life sentence with the possibility of parole. He got life sentence without the possibility of parole. And the reason he got that is because he's guilty. It's like 13 appeals. He admitted to threatening witnesses to shut them up. Like, it's silly. Of course he's guilty. But we don't want, he's not a question of why we don't or do want the death penalty. I don't want the death penalty because you can be wrong. And you can always let someone out. And as a human being, I recognize that some things that people do in their lives make a very strong case that they don't need to be around free people anymore. That they don't need to be walking around in public. But since it's a reasonable doubt as our standard, that gets them out, and between DNA and all kinds of other stuff, we are getting better and better over time at recognizing who's guilty and who's not. The value of killing anyone simply because you don't want to pay for their meals for the next 30 years, which is really what this bullshit is about most of the time. They may be absolutely deserving of death, but I will not take part in it. It's, by being against the death penalty, you're not against the idea that some people don't absolutely deserve it. That's not the point. It's that system that you put in place for the people who absolutely deserve it, there is in no way that you can statistically guarantee that you won't kill an innocent person. It's not possible. And so always having the option to undo the sentence as best you can if a mistake or a miscarriage of justice has happened is crucial. Period. Hasn't it been proven there's no cost advantage to the death penalty? No, well, yeah, because they have a lot of. You would want in a civilized society anyone who's facing death to have as many appeals as they possibly could warrant. And and Julius Jones used up all of his because he was guilty. But again, this isn't about Julius Jones. I mean, he blew that dude's brains out in front of his sister and his daughters, and then shot at them as they were running away. She identified him as much as the flim flam media story around this is carried on. It's silly, but I don't care about him. I don't care about the ones who may deserve it as much as they may deserve it. My concern is the guaranteed person, man, woman, or otherwise, that does not deserve it, that will, because that system exists, of course, at some point be killed. And I don't know of any victim's family who, if you came to them and said, look, we found the person who did it. We have video, red-handed. No, it's absolutely them. We can get rid of them. We can dust them off. We can, just like a dog at the pound, we can wipe them from the face of the earth. However, to do that, we would have to maintain a system that more than likely would kill 2 innocent people in the process. Are you okay with that? I don't know any victim who's lost a child, a sibling, a parent, a mate, a friend, a coworker that would go, yeah, okay, yeah, totally. I want that guy dead so bad. Kill the other 2. Yeah, I don't care. How innocent could they possibly be? Like, it's ridiculous. And I'm not seeing the death of America. This fucking goofy. People said the same shit during Bernard Goetz. Please. Please. Hal, I'm all for the death penalty, but if they found not guilty after, then everybody involved, death sentence. Soon I would rule the planet with the army of frogs because dogs won't listen. Right. Because there'd be nobody left. Everybody would be guilty of murder through depraved indifference or whatever. No, Kyle is not the new Zimmerman. Zimmerman wishes. They will try to make him the next Bernard Goetz. This is about open carry. This is the Ahmaud Arbery's killers would be the new Zimmermans in that case. Except, unlike Zimmerman, they were stupid enough to film it. So they're going to jail. And when they go to jail, everybody who's yelling at me about how this should have gone is going to go, finally justice. Yes, let's strengthen the system. There's so many people who found innocent years after they were executed. That not many. There are a few. Well, and there's debate about it. There's also guilty people who got out and roamed the earth and murdered more people. There's more of them. Lots more of them. Don't get me started on Eugene Banks. Yeah, and released the film of themselves proving they were innocent, right? And got on the stand because they thought they would get, it would help them the way they thought it would help. Patty, are you really in Namibia? That's amazing. Yeah, don't get me started on hillbillies. Absolutely not. By the way, I'll be on at 12:45 with Stuttering John. He just asked me to come on and then. So I'll be on in an hour. So I'm going to take a break for a little bit, and I'm going to be on his show in a little bit. And remember, when I'm, a lot of the people who hate my argument about the trial yesterday are mad because I am arguing from the exact same point I'm arguing about the death penalty. It is not that some people don't deserve it. It is not that some people are, cruel monsters who have lost their human card. Because there's lots of them. Prisons are full of them. And the abolished prison people are lunatics if they think otherwise. It's just embarrassing and sorrowful and sad. And the fact that, one of the reasons America has more people incarcerated in it is the fact that our prisoners survive. Our prisoners live out their terms. They get health care and food. So if you get 25 years, you're not going to just wither for 5 and pass away like you're, in the Philippines or in Hungary. Otherwise functional civil societies that don't have, their prisoners don't last as long. We got a lot of old people in jail for shit they did a long time ago. And that is better to me than a single dead person that we went, oops, wrong person. DNA proved it wrong. The fact that we have long sentences and a lot of incarceration is an effect of us moving away from hangings in the 1800s and lethal injection and the death penalty. So, this is crucial. This is a crucial argument. And when you hear me arguing about what went on in the trial and what went on in the, in the law and in the self-defense laws around Wisconsin and yada, yada, that's me arguing for that system to exist, be functioning and safe for the person it will save. And my lack of emotional regret about the occasional person that goes free for what people consider moral crimes, if it means that that a true victim, the law will apply to them. And in all these cases, it, so far, it will and does. And that's what I'm arguing for. And that's what I will continue to argue for, because I don't want a woman who knows that her ex-boyfriend is out to get her, she's got a conviction for check fraud or drugs or something like that. She can't own a gun, but she's scared for her life. So she gets this gun and she takes it to the bar with her because she wants to go see her friends, and he might be there. And he is there. He follows her out to the truck and attacks her. She shoots him. And then the prosecution charges her with murder because she told somebody she wanted to kill him at one point before he killed her. She knew she was going into a situation where he could be there. She had a gun on her that was illegal. All those laws, how they would apply in that circumstance, is way more important to me than worrying about whether Sean Hannity thinks he got a win this week. So that's where I stand, and I will stay there. And that's why I won't bullshit you when some of these things come up like other people will, and then spend 2 videos walking it back so I don't get sued like Anna Kasparian has done on the Young Turks. She and Cenk have both done videos saying everything I've said about the Rittenhouse case that everybody's mad about me for saying all along, in 2 videos, so that he, now that he's been found not guilty, won't sue them for materially lying about the facts of his case. And he's going to. And it's the only reason they did those videos. And it's embarrassing and wrong. And you don't defend any individual in the justice system. It's why everybody has Miranda rights, no matter how awful they are. Bill Cosby has Miranda rights. Weinstein had Miranda rights. Those rights have to be for everybody, or they're for fucking nobody. And anybody who wants to change them because they don't like the guy that's on charge, that's exactly why we have a legal system. And the frustration about when you feel it fails is part and parcel to the entire endeavor. And mobbing up around it is exactly the opposite of being moral. Other than that, I have no opinion. I'll see you guys later. Always get dragged into this stuff, don't I? This is where I stand. And I mean it. I mean what I say. I'm not being flippant about any of this shit. My belief is based on study, reason, and life. And anytime I'm wrong about those kind of things, you'll see the shift. But you're not going to see one here because people matter too much to me.